Hey everyone, your host Nick here, and you're listening to the official podcast of 4PlayerNetwork.com. First, I want to remind you that we are a fully independent podcast, quite literally just a group of friends who have met once a week since 2008 to talk about video games. If you like our show, the best thing you can do for us is be active in our community. I recommend Discord. You can subscribe to our show, leave us a review on your preferred podcast service, or, if you're so inclined, bless us with your patronage on Patreon or Twitch. If you're new, all you need to know is this. We record these shows live every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central on Twitch, and the audio version launches on all podcast services on Friday morning. Patreon and Twitch supporters will even get the show a day early on Thursdays. But if you want to know more about any of this, about what we do, or find all the important links you need, simply visit us at 4playernetwork.com. And that's it. This is the only ad you'll ever hear on this show. So, with that said, thank you for listening. Let's get started. Oh my god, this podcast, I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna go. Let's find out though. Hey everyone, welcome to 4Player Podcast. This is episode 796. It is May 28th, 2024. I'm your host, Nick Henderson, joined tonight by Brad Simons.
Hello.
Nolan Hedstrom.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Christopher Guthridge.
Hello.
And Christopher Davis.
Good evening, everyone.
Video games. We're here to talk about video games. There's so much to talk about tonight. It's been an exciting week. It's been kind of an exciting month, especially in the world of indie video games. And we're on the cusp of June, which is, historically speaking, a pretty exciting month for the industry. We got Summer Game Fest coming up here pretty soon, which means rumors are starting to swirl about announcements and whatnot. So we're going to talk about a few of those things tonight. But first, we got video games to talk about. We're going to talk about Hellblade 2. We're going to talk about Lorelei and the laser eyes. There's cool stuff abound. But before we get into that, I want to remind everybody, if you're not in our Discord, so let's just say you've been listening to our show, or you haven't, maybe you watched us on YouTube like years and years and years ago, and you found your way back, and you're in our chat right now, like, oh my god, they're still going. You should know that we have a Discord that you should be a part of at discord.gg/4player. Go there and join. But that's neither here nor there. How are y'all doing this evening?
Not great. I was chastised for missing game news, and then retroactively not knowing I should wait till the thing I thought was breaking for the podcast, which I was supposed to assume that y'all already knew.
No, Brad. No. See,
I think we should lead with Resident Evil.
We can. We'll get. I'm fine with that if you want to do that. This is not. I don't want to air our dirty laundry here on a live podcast. Let's just avoid that conversation. And move
Especially
right past
yours, because it smells bad.
So
Mine's like whatever.
All right, fine. I normally like to start with impressions, but if you're super excited to talk about this Resident Evil news, which was on the docket,
No. I want to talk about deodorant. Do y'all wear deodorant or antiperspirant? Someone told me the other day that I said I wore antiperspirant, like the white bar, and they said, "Dude,
I don't.
You're not supposed to wear that because it gave you cancer or some shit." And I'm like, "How was I
What?
supposed to know that?"
Yeah,
I wasn't supposed to use
aluminum.
It's not so
antiperspirant?
much that it'll give you cancer, more so it just kind of messes up your clothes and stuff. And I don't know
Wait,
about the
no, it
cancer.
It's like antiperspirant keeps you from sweating. Right?
Correct.
It's like bad for you.
Yeah.
It like plugs up. It plugs up your sweats.
Yeah.
it defeats the purpose of.
Then why do they sell so much of it in stores?
Why do they
Okay,
cigarettes?
I feel like we have to have a really important conversation about commercialism and capitalism at this point, because that's
The
just
cigarettes
the,
are behind the
Brad,
counter.
the reason
sell
is
products that are bad for you.
the reason is there are certain times where people don't want to be seen sweating, be that a job interview or something like that, blah blah blah. Whereas a day-to-day basis, you probably should just wear deodorant. Sweat happens, but if you're walking down the red carpet, you probably don't want pit stains, and so you put on a little antiperspirant for those. But
You're
I
not
think
supposed
on
to
a
wear it
day-to-day
every
basis, you should probably just be wearing deodorant.
it's a case-by-case basis kind of thing.
Wait, where's y'all got a pamphlet about this?
Yeah.
Yeah, they taught you in sixth grade elementary, as long as you weren't born in 1947.
Also, we did the scientific studies personally, so we know.
Yeah. in a lab.
Well, I mean, I still sweat other places, so the toxins are getting out.
But like, if your sweat stains are like making it through your jeans, it's a little different than if it's like coming through your t-shirt.
I think you have a smaller problem there, or a bigger problem rather.
Oh shit, that's funny. Wow,
So
I was not.
I should switch.
I mean,
I would recommend.
It's all. I mean, let's be real. It's all giving us cancer. I mean, come on.
Yeah, we're all gonna die one day anyway. Like, who cares? But
right? I mean,
okay, this just took a really dark turn.
Well, it didn't. That's just the circle of life, Nick. It's beautiful.
Yeah, but I don't need to think about that in the middle of my midlife crisis.
While you're putting on deodorant in the morning.
Yeah, one more thing that's gonna fucking kill me.
Find a stick of deodorant.
Well, see, normally I use Old Spice deodorant, the classic scent. But recently I got some of that Mando deodorant, like one of those internet companies that sells deodorants.
Oh, they do like Star Wars scents, right?
No, I swear to God, it has nothing to do with Star Wars. They're just called that.
They have one. One of those companies does like Star Wars scents.
Well, this not
smells like Lando Calrissian.
It's just called it's called Mando whole body deodorant.
I want to be clear here. I'm okay. I want to smell like Lando, not Mando. Which one are you saying?
You're right. You're right. I mean, my brain immediately jumped to Lando, but I realized you were talking about. But what? Wait.
Mando seems like he smells bad. He never takes that helmet off. That's disgusting.
That's true.
Or
gross.
Package.
That is true.
Feet. Yeah, Mando probably stinks.
Yeah.
Probably reeks.
Baby Grogu, like Baby Yoda, probably fucking reeks. I mean, I don't know why, but I just think Yoda's
constantly pooping in that little diaper of his.
I think Yodas are probably just naturally like really musty smelling.
I mean, they never show him changing him in the show.
Can we back up for a second? We're not calling them Yodas, are we? Like, that's not their.
What are we supposed to call them?
Oh yeah, what are they called, Nick?
I don't fucking know, but it's
what
not
are they called?
Yodas.
Yeah, it's Yodas.
His name was Yoda.
So what?
You're telling me he's Yoda? His name was Yoda, and he's also of the Yoda.
Do you want
people?
me to like make up a name for him? Like, I'm not fucking George Lucas.
There's a Star Wars wiki out there that probably has the answer.
There is not. It is very specifically, clearly, like an unanswered question by George Lucas's design. There was a theory at one point based on like a artist's rendition of a bunch of Yodas around like a altar that their species was the Wills, which is like from the original title of Star Wars is like the Journal of the Wills, blah blah blah. But George Lucas said they're not the Wills, and when he was working on his own pitch for a sequel trilogy, he incorporated the Wills, which were like microscopic midichlorian-like beings that
went so well the first time through.
I mean, that was his
More
whole
like
thing
the
for the
Won'ts.
sequel trilogy. Is like he thought
I like
was like
Pocop.
we're getting into micro universe.
I like Pocop's idea that they're goblins.
Yeah,
they're just goblins.
Space goblins.
Space goblins. Space goblins that are very strong with the Force. I'm okay with that. I'm cool with that.
Goblin D's nuts.
Goblin D's nuts.
Got him.
Anyways, Brad, do you want to deflect again to another completely random topic of conversation?
A lot of this stuff about on the internet. Well, a lot of the stuff about antiperspirant's mostly just bullshit or / myth. So I mean, y'all can't scare me away from the good stuff.
Okay, have fun with your armpit cancer.
I mean, look, I'm seeing links to those websites that say it's bullshit.
They were probably paid by the antiperspirant companies to discredit them. They can't be trusted.
Unfortunately, you can find any information you could possibly want on the internet, whether it's for what you want or against what you want.
He's not
It's true.
wrong.
This is a fact of life. Okay, Brad. Again, I'm going to give you the opening. If you do you want to talk about the big rumors, news now corroborated by IGN now, or do you want to wait?
Well, I thought it was breaking news. I would have been much more excited about this earlier in the week when I heard about it, just being a rumor before the corroboration. But that's exciting. What do we know anything about it? I mean,
okay, so here's the trajectory.
I saw in the rundown that you had mentioned something about Resident Evil rumors, but I thought it was still more just kind of the other stuff related to
I don't
the
have
stuff that we kind of know is already coming, like the Resident Evil 1 stuff.
Well, no. Listen. Here's the full shebang, right? Because the way anything with Resident Evil usually happens is it almost always originates with one of like several like really prominent leakers online. The biggest one, the one that I've always followed, is Dust Golem, who's now goes by a different name or whatever. But he kind of disappeared off Twitter, and then he pops back in when big things happen, and was like, oh, by the way. And he like sprinkles some rumors in there, and he's like, "I've heard this through the grapevine," and he has a pretty strong track record of being correct, right? So he popped back in earlier this week, and he was like, "Look, I have to clear the air about a few things and talk about some things that are changing that I've heard." And we talked about this a couple weeks ago because Resident Evil 9 was supposedly going to be was originally planned to be announced like next month as part of like Summer Game Fest or something, presumably, or maybe at the PlayStation showcase or something. I don't know. That apparently has changed, and the plan is now to announce it either later in the year or even next year so that it's released late 2025, early 2026. He also said that there's been strong rumors and speculation that, and even he talked about this a while ago, that there was a remake of Resident Evil 1 in the works. He now says that is false. That project does not exist and has never truly existed. Resident Evil 0 and Code Veronica are both in development, and those
which
are
is the
next
crazy
two
news,
games.
right? Because those are the ones that we thought maybe they would just sort of skip over. Do you think they would do like time period wise, timeline wise? Are those like even remotely near each other? Would they just try to like lump those into one mega game?
No,
they're completely disconnected.
Because
I mean, one's a prequel and one's a sequel.
I don't see them, given the way Resident Evil 3 performed critically, sales wise. I would think they would be worried about, let's say, a remake of Resident Evil 0 not hitting as hard, even though it would be like a more substantial remake like 2, because 2 did well, 4 did well, but those were like the popular games. 0 wasn't fucking popular.
Look. If I had to guess,
Code Veronica was okay, but I mean,
they're still obviously splitting these projects up between teams, and if I had to guess, I would say that the team that made Resident Evil 3 remake is probably on Resident Evil 0, and then the core like Resident Evil team that did 2 and 4 is probably working on Code Veronica.
What's the reasoning behind that?
So 0, I think 0 is maybe the less popular game in the series. It's the quote unquote the throwaway one, the one that fewer people care about. Especially when you're comparing it to something like Code Veronica.
So these days.
No, I don't think so.
So here's my thinking here, is that with Code Veronica specifically and how they set up Wesker in 4, I think the idea is that they're using Code Veronica to be like the build up towards Chris Redfield's relationship with Wesker in Resident Evil 5. So when they eventually remake 5, not saying they should, but they're probably going to do it, that's their like narrative throughput and introduction to like what they're going to do there. Now, as far as 0 goes, okay.
Do we, and this is just trying to be realistic here, can you remake Resident Evil 5?
Yeah, why not?
They remade Resident Evil 4.
No. Listen. I think it's because it's problematic.
Africa. They're in Africa, is what you're trying to say.
It's in Africa. I mean, but I'm not just saying it because you can make stories in Africa. I think it was.
Nick,
I'm not saying
Africa's a real place, Nick.
Yeah, Nick. Look at a globe.
Okay.
No, the portrayals were the portrayal of the zombies. I mean, the imagery was dicey.
Yes.
You're asking like, are they just gonna have to like steer clear of that like completely? I mean, can they pull that off like and have it not be kind of weird
entirely and not make it about a white protagonist mowing down?
Oh no, they're gonna keep that.
Well, their solution before was that there's not just black people in Africa, and all of a sudden there were all kinds of it was a multicultural, like it was. So, you remember the game? That was sort of like a last minute like. They just started palette swapping, like, here's a Mexican guy.
I'm just saying. It's a different world. It's a different climate, and it's like it's like, do they want to do that right now? I don't know.
I mean, did they want to do it?
I think they want to make money. That's what they want to do. So here's my other thing is that with 0 specifically, the biggest gameplay mechanic from that game was switching between your 2 primary characters. What if, since Resident Evil 5 is a co-op game, you make Resident Evil 0 Remake a co-op game as well, and then you use that foundational level design and gameplay mechanics to build out the co-op experience of a 5 remake.
Sure. But wouldn't it just be easier to do 5 first if that's the case? Because 5 is just mostly...
At this point, we are moving pretty...
Right? Like, it's already kind of modern.
We're moving pretty far outside of the scope of like what's been corroborated here. I mean, this is all pure speculation.
It is speculation. Do you think it would be more of a traditional... Or like more of a Resident Evil, how should I say this? Do you think maybe these remakes are not quite as modern as like Resident Evil 2 make?
No, I think they set the bar, and I don't think they can. I don't think they can. I don't think they can shoot below the bar intentionally because people are gonna be like, "What is this shit?" Because you know what I mean. You're just gonna. If you're not gonna shoot for the fences with these remakes like you've done with all the ones prior,
I'm thinking more like
I'm
thinking more like remember the Zelda game the Zelda game that came out, the remake of Link, not Link's Awakening, Past, but Link's Awakening. Like, what if they took these projects to maybe do a more traditional game, but with like a cool new art style, right? Kind of like Link's Awakening, like a way they can make a less expensive and ambitious remake, but still have it like a lot of quality alive, throw out a cool new art style, like really make it pretty, hire like a developer who's good at some shit like that. You know,
I mean,
that way they're not
Brad.
investing so much money on the Resident Evil games that did not sell nearly as well.
I don't think Capcom really wants to outsource anymore. I think they want to keep all their stuff internal as much as they can. And going back to your earlier question about why remake 5 after 0 and Code Veronica, like, again, I think you use 0 as the experimental playground for getting these mechanics down right, so you have a tight, compacted level design, and then you just build that up for 5, which is a much grander scale by comparison.
Sure. I mean, sure.
Yeah.
But
except,
look,
I mean,
I think we keep.
I hate to break it to you, but like Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4, I think the harder remake is going to be remaking Code Veronica, not 5.
Look,
5 is mostly made.
Dude, I think
it's already a modern game. It's a modern game. You have to complete. I'm sorry, Nick. What do you want me? What do you want me to say? What do you mean?
I think you're ignoring. I mean, people like Code Veronica a lot, and I think people
I agree with you. But with Resident Evil 4, they were just like remaking like assets in these environments. They were changing up the environments a little bit, but they were remaking assets like scale wise, like scope wise. It wasn't as crazy as of a remake as I think 2 was, which was going from a game that like doesn't even remotely, like Resident Evil 4 remake almost seems like a game you could like oh, hit the button and look at what it used to look like. I know it literally wasn't that, but like that would be impossible for something like Resident Evil 2. Those are like completely different genres almost.
They were remaking a game that was already fully playable, like a 3D, like modern feeling game.
Which is why Code Veronica, that's a lot of work to envision that game, which was already a pretty big classic Resident Evil game, but in like a complete 3D space with 3D level design and 3D like set piecey stuff. Resident Evil 4 was kind of working with Legos that already existed a little bit. I'm not trying to like take from that project a little bit, but I look back at them and I still think that Resident Evil 2 is like the much more impressive effort than Resident Evil 4 was. As much as I liked Resident Evil 4, I still think going from 2 to 2 was like whoa. And that's why I'm saying 5 seems like the easier project, controversy aside, and that's a co-op game. That's the game where you're like, all right, the game doesn't really make itself, but it's more of a redo all these assets, do a little funky with the level design. It's already a co-op game. Then once they got the co-op game, but again, they're comfortable with the game that was already designed as co-op, then they say, oh, we could probably do that with Code Veronica.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves because as far as we know right now, the Resident Evil 5 remake doesn't even exist yet. So
that's true.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. Right now, 0 and Code Veronica are the focuses, are the main projects.
You also have to remember that Capcom's whole development cycles with their engines are essentially in trilogy in design. And right now they're coming to the end of their trilogy of their open world games with Resident Evil 9, which is rumored to be fully open world.
Open world?
Yes.
Wait, what? Why were you
What games?
trilogy?
Are you talking about 7, 8, and 9 being like
No.
quote unquote open world? What are you
Their open world trilogy is Monster Hunter World, Dragon's
Oh.
Dogma 2, and Resident Evil 9.
But this wasn't from who said this? It wasn't Capcom.
I think it was Jason Schreier that said it.
I think it's a lot of speculation coming from the kinds of projects they've been doing, what they've been doing specifically with that engine, which is the same engine they're building Resident Evil 9 in. But the point is, we're not going to find out about Resident Evil 9 concretely for a while now. So I don't know what that means for like next month, because they were apparently already on the cusp of announcing it, and now I feel like they've yanked it. If this is true, they've yanked it out of the lineup for Summer Game Fest or whatever show it was at, and now people are probably scrambling to fill that hole with something.
We know what the answer is. We already, it's Monster Hunter Wilds. Show Wilds.
I think presumably that was already going to be shown. What I'm saying is you pull Resident Evil 9 out of a lineup, suddenly you have a gaping hole where there was going to be this huge game reveal, and now you got to find something as exciting.
Pragmata.
But like we've seen Pragmata. I mean, we haven't seen gameplay of it really, but you know what I mean. Resident Evil 9 is a game that is a complete unknown quantity in any official capacity, and to not have that shown next month is probably it's a bit of a hit, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
I think they will be just fine showing off Pragmata and Kinitsugami and Monster Hunter Wilds. Like, I think that's
great.
That's a triple threat right there, man.
It is, but it was a quadruple threat before. With you know, like if you suddenly take Resident Evil 9 out of the equation, you either don't replace it with anything, and you suddenly have less to show, or you have to find something that's as exciting to replace it with. I'm not even talking about Capcom specifically. I'm talking about wherever they were going to show it, whether it's at Xbox's showcase or PlayStation showcase, whatever the fuck it was going to be.
I know what you replace it with, Nick. You replace it with Astro Bot.
Okay, I guess we're doing all of the new stuff. Okay, sure.
We're in the news. We're in the news. Might as well.
Yeah, I mean, you could. Astro Bot has been pretty. I mean, at this point, people are talking about this new Astro Bot project at this point as if it already exists. They're like, "What's it gonna be?" Like everybody's pretty confident that sometime within the next 15 days.
And speculation before, obviously. I mean, that's why I bid on it earlier this year. Is it more just like kind of cooperation, or it really is people? Oh, well, even the developer posted.
Yeah, they tweeted.
Astro Bot on Twitter.
Team Asobi tweeted. Yeah. So it's coming. It's like 99% sure it's coming at this point.
That's why I want to talk about it. Like,
okay, that's why I wanted to talk about it as well.
I have one concern with it,
which is
that it would be a PSVR 2 exclusive.
Yeah.
No, there's
that
no
would
way.
be incredibly stupid, though.
Okay, listen.
It would be, but I wouldn't put it past them.
Wario64 tweeted this. I don't know. I don't remember what Wario64's source was on this, but he seems the rumor. The rumor is that it is not VR, or at least it's not like. Well, it says it is not a game that requires VR to play. Like that's pretty much. It's not a game that is. My hope is that it has some VR functionality in it, because I think it'd be really cool to have both.
Yeah.
But the question right now is like, is this going to be a tech demo for something else, or kind of like a smaller thing, or are they finally getting to do? Are they finally getting to do like a full blown like Mario size?
So the thing is, it's purportedly been in development for quite some time, right? Since the launch, since 2020 in theory,
presumably,
right? When the PS5 launched, or was the PS5 in 2021? Either way, it's been quite some time. And when Sony shut down Japan studio, kind of the people that they didn't let go, they kind of moved over to Asobi. So like they've definitely, I feel like, would have been working on something by this point a little bigger than the thing that launched with the PS5, which was a really cool game, but it definitely was more of a controller tech demo / nostalgia piece. It was a cool fucking game.
I mean, both the games, for all intents and purposes, both those games were tech demos, quote unquote.
No,
but they were like, no,
Rescue Mission was like a full blown platform.
Yeah, Rescue Mission was pretty big.
Right, but it was designed specifically to show off the hardware.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
I think my hope is that now they're kind of they're unshackled from that, and they're just like, make a cool fucking game.
I do think Rescue Mission is pretty unshackled.
I mean,
in
it was
terms
on
of,
my
like,
top
the
10 that year.
scope.
I certainly considered a full game, but it
It
was
also didn't launch with the PSVR 2. That came later.
Yeah.
I would say so. The reason I was confident to bid on it is because the other poorly kept secret is that there's a Pro coming this year, right? Or is that
Right.
is that not still not been announced? I imagine
No,
we're
not
all
yet.
gonna. I mean, it's been
Probably next month.
unofficially announced. It hasn't been officially revealed, but Sony has been talking about.
If I had to guess
An upgrade, right?
that PlayStation showcase that is supposedly coming in the next 15 days, where they're going to
Yeah.
announce this Astro Bot, I would imagine that would be a pretty
It
good
would
place
make-
to announce the Pro.
It would make sense that Astro Bot launches when this Pro does, but all that also makes you wonder, like,
Are they just gonna package it
what
in,
is
or is it-
Astrobot showing off for the Pro, and is it gonna be? I'm assuming it would still be playable on the regular PS5.
Yeah.
I wouldn't see them wanting to put it on hardware like the PSVR 2 that just hasn't sold much at all, because then you're not gonna sell software. It's already hard to sell software on VR. So I think best case scenario, full blown platformer that you can play in VR as well. Probably maybe even best in VR.
Or at least have
but-
like a VR, like a secondary like VR campaign or mode or something in it. But like,
Yeah.
But if not, if it is just PSVR 2, I do call dibs first. After Nick, y'all can,
I'd
Call
tell
dibs
you what would
after
be
him.
pretty cool if you want to do VR. One person is playing with the controller on the screen. The other is managing the camera in the PSVR 2. So
Yeah,
where
wait,
you
what?
look is where they're moving, where they're gonna, like, you're shining a flashlight on the ground, for example.
dude, that would require so much.
like
so
like
much
co-op,
trust
like
with
the
the
like
person.
VR
Like a
co-op.
co-op experience is what I'm saying.
VR does really kind of change the pacing. Man, Rescue Mission's so good. That's literally
I
one of the best.
I listened to a podcast today actually where they were talking about theorizing about the coolest idea I've heard so far, because they were talking about like what makes what separates something like Astro's Playroom from like a full blown like platformer, and like, what could they do? Is it just going to be like a full game where it's like here's the ice level and here's the desert level, and you know it could be really cool that way, but like, and then they were talking about, well, if it's going to be a full blown platformer, are they still going to like lean into like the history of PlayStation kind of thing? And then someone was like, what if they did like a thing where like all of the hold on, someone talk, my microphone just
It's not been
Sure.
the best. It's not. Remember, this is not the only Astro thing. There was also the Astro tech demo that came with the PlayStation camera, right?
That was
The
a
remember
PS4,
Nolan
yeah, like
shit went out on a clip once. He shit out
Yeah.
an Astrobot.
I didn't shit out. It went in my
The Playroom.
butt.
Oh, you sucked it in. You inhaled it into your
Yeah.
butthole.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, yeah,
That was
that
for-
was showing off the PS4's like hardware and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yes,
Playroom.
with also Playroom, but with the
Playroom.
you
Sorry
know,
about
showing
that.
off the the
Astro's
light bar
Playroom,
on the
that's
PS4 control. Yeah, it was just that was more tech demo-y than
Sorry,
Restoration for sure.
let me finish this thought real quick. Sorry, my headphones just turned off again. I don't know why the fuck they keep doing that. But anyways, the idea that I heard that I thought sounded really cool is like if they want to like lean into the history of PlayStation thing, but on a bigger scale, it's like instead of making like themed worlds that are like, you know, desert or ocean or whatever, they make like each world is like a PlayStation IP. So it's like you go to the Horizon world, and then you go to, you know, they like the Sly Cooper world. They just have like a huge like catalog of IP that they could like turn into full blown like worlds, and I think that would be like
Yeah, that would be cool.
it'd be a cool way to revisit
At the
IP too
same
that
time,
like
I
hasn't been
do
around
kind of
for a
just
while.
want this to be like, just to let them have their Mario Odyssey moment or whatever, and just let them kind of be a full blown its own thing, you know,
Would be
because they deserve
nice.
it, right?
Yeah, no, I think I think
it's the new Sackboy.
I think whatever
Really don't
happens,
say
it's
that.
gonna be cool. I think I think it's destined to be pretty fucking amazing, to be honest.
And let's hope it comes out this year
I still consider
for personal
I s-
reasons.
I consider both of those Astrobot games to be some of the best like just
Yeah.
platformers I've ever played. I think they're fucking amazing. So yeah, very very cool. I hope we find out more soon. Sony still hasn't said, like, everybody's been kind of waiting. I think the original thing, I think Jeff Grubb said that there was gonna be a PlayStation showcase before the end of May, and obviously there's only like 3 days left in May, so I don't think it's gonna happen.
Well, obviously it's not a show. Well, the last I heard, speculation wise, is that there might be like a state of play that doesn't have a lot of the big first party stuff, like just kind of like you know, let's say they announce it, I don't know, any minute, and then tomorrow is the state of play. I could see that kind of happening, not with the showcase though. And if the Astro Bot thing is, you know, supposedly quote unquote 15 days or whatever, that would kind of line up with it being that E3 week.
I think
or
Astro
the
Bot
actual
definitely.
PlayStation showcase, maybe where they reveal hardware and stuff. That would be a part of that, because
I
that's
think
where you're going to see most of the first party stuff.
The smarter play for Sony is to announce a proper showcase after the Summer Games Fest cycle's done, so they can own the whole news cycle.
I don't think Sony's worried about.
I don't. But yeah, I mean, that would probably be smart, but I don't think that's going to happen. Because I mean, unless
they don't want to. They don't want to do
scenes.
anything past like this Thursday, because if they do, then that you're running up against the Summer Game Fest stuff, and eventually all your stuff is just going to get drowned out.
You know what? I'm going to call it, because we are. So I'll talk about this a little bit later, but there's a Silent Hill thing happening on Thursday, and I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Sony's like, oh, by the way, we're doing our state of. Yeah, it's the second Silent Hill transmission or whatever that Konami's calling it. But I could see Sony tomorrow being like, "Hey, by the way, there's a state of play on Thursday."
Like
I'd be like, "Oh,
right before, maybe like right before, and then they have a Silent Hill trailer, and then the Silent Hill thing." Huh? I could see
possibly.
that.
But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Let's shift gears. Let's get to it. I want to get some impressions done in this first segment.
It is exciting. This quote unquote key 3 week. Do y'all have one big? Can maybe y'all say one big? I know you said maybe you wanted to do some speculation. Maybe we can name one big like
a dream project that we think is realistic to expect,
or just something we hope to see that we haven't seen in a long time. Anybody got something off the top of their head?
I want to see Monster Hunter Wilds.
Yes,
I think that's pretty much a guarantee at this point, right?
But yeah, we'll see it, of course. I mean, I think they said I would like to see Dragon Age. It's also some of the most recent rumors have said that game is still coming this year, maybe.
That could be a holiday.
Remember, there was that leaked gameplay snippet that was like 8 seconds long, and it was not the Dragon Age that we know and love, which morphed a little bit over the years, but it just looked like an action game, which is, I don't know, we'll see. It's exciting because I feel like it really is really, this is your last chance, BioWare. Because if they fuck this up, you might as well. I mean, they're just. They've hurt us too.
Well, they have Mass Effect coming, like that.
They have Mass Effect left. But I'm saying they've already let us down with Mass Effect.
This is the last bit of goodwill.
I'm saying if Dragon Age is a flop, then we have no reason to care about this upcoming Mass Effect, because BioWare is shit now. Yeah. You don't get 3 disasters. So
that is true. That is true. I'm trying to think of something specific, and this is maybe just more curiosity, and I've talked about it a little bit in the past few weeks, but like, given all the fucking shit happening with Xbox, I just want to know what the fuck their plan is. Like what their game plan is for because they have a big showcase coming, right? And like they've got to do something to try and win people. It's going to be awkward. It's going to be real fucking awkward. But you got to think they probably have some cool stuff to show, but like,
I think they're just going to cut out all the talky shit, and it's going to be very like game focused, right? They just show the games and let the games do the talking, because no one wants to hear them run their fucking mouths. Really,
they have to show off
Game Pass, and it's the play where gamers play is where we want to be. That.
I mean, we know Blops is going to be like a major part of it. By the way,
that's a separate showcase.
Yeah. But by the way, I'm confused. They announced Black Ops 6. Did we ever get a Black Ops 4 and 5? Maybe 3. Oh, there was a 3. I remember
that's
3.
That's a boring question. Nobody here cares about
5 was Cold War. It was several years ago.
Yeah, okay, but that was called Cold War. It wasn't called Black Ops, was it?
It was Black Ops Cold War.
Oh, I had no idea.
Are we going to see Fable?
Yeah.
With Richard Ayoade.
Good for them too.
That's the big thing, is that they have to show off everything they announced this generation with.
State of Decay 3?
Oh, Perfect Dark?
No, dude. I want to tell you right now, get that out of your head. Perfect Dark is not being shown at Microsoft's thing this in June. Not happening.
Although you know how Chris Davis was saying, maybe Sony should kind of wait a little bit to do their thing. It would be good. Sony has been is famous for going after the people they destroy.
And adjusting
back with the Saturn and the PlayStation, where they just go up and announce their price of being $100 less, or
Yeah.
with the Xbox One, they're like, "This is how we share games on our system." You know,
Yeah.
I feel like given how much
Let someone
hate
else
there is
shoot
for
themselves in the
Xbox,
foot. Yeah.
yes, it would be perfect to like wait to see what they do and then kind of respond
adjust
to
accordingly. Yeah.
adjust accordingly. Because I mean, look, this is how you share games. Like basically killed it. They still haven't
Yeah.
recovered from that moment. They're still
Yeah.
struggling. So yeah, and they also killed
Brutal.
Sega, so.
It was brutal.
Absolutely.
So if you want to,
Also, there's rumors of like a PSP, a PSP.
that might
shit.
play
Hear this shit?
PlayStation 4 games.
I'm not kidding. There are rumors of a PSP, and they're not bullshit rumors. They're
Isn't
maybe
Brad
we
usually
should
the
be
one
paying
who tries to
attention
like quell our expectations for these kinds of things?
No, I'm
and
just
now
saying what
he's
people
like,
are talking about.
I hear there's a PSP.
No. That's not like a 4chan rumor. Apparently, there's like rumors from like it might be more of like a handheld PC. Now that all PlayStation games are going to PC,
That's true.
but I mean that still would be cool if
I
they
mean,
called
it
it a
would be.
PlayStation Portable too.
It would be. I mean, on the topic of a PSP, my only concern at this point is whether Sony has production bandwidth to do it. Like, we're talking about having a PS5, a PS5 Pro, PS Portal, PSVR 2, and now a PSP 3, essentially. Like,
Yeah, but I mean
that's
they're a hardware
5
company.
major
They can
production pipelines.
figure
Like,
it.
you have to call something.
But like they're
Yeah,
gonna
kill
call
the
half these
PSP.
things. They're probably gonna call the PSVR 2, and they're gonna
Yeah.
call the PSP 3 or whatever like a year later, like they did with the
Yeah.
Vita.
Look, man, come on. I know you want a PSP. Who doesn't want a PSP?
I'm
You
just
know,
being
the-
realistic.
You're wrong.
The more I've used my Steam Deck while sitting in bed with Moonlight, I'm like,
Under the moon.
I kind of, if I could get maybe that PlayStation Portal is not such a bad idea.
Oh no. No,
don't do
I'm
it.
not doing it.
No,
I'm not.
very
Calm down.
specifically. No.
I
Specifically.
know. You can do it on your Steam Deck. I know.
No. Specifically because that remote play streaming is bad. It's not going to be anywhere near the quality of Moonlight. So what you can do on your Steam Deck is actually much better than what you can do with the Portal.
Don't worry. I have not actually entertained the idea.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just letting you know it's not a good product.
Okay, before we
Even for
move
what
on,
it does.
I want to give Crispy some time to talk about Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. But like before
Let's
we move
do
on to
it.
that, is there anything else? Anything anybody wants to throw out there about Summer Game Fest predictions? Or are we good to move on?
I mean, I just want to throw out there that, like, if you want to talk about possible reveals, I want to show me BioShock 4, man. Let's do it.
BioShock 4.
Cloud Chamber has been
I
working on
agree
this for
with that,
6 years now. Like,
And that is a heavily rumored thing because 2K basically said that their next entry in a major franchise is coming soon.
yeah.
Also, I'll
also-
throw this out there. That 007 IO Interactive game, I would love to see what that looks like.
Final Fantasy Tactics something, please.
Yeah.
Good
We're highly expected to get the new Doom game, which is supposed to be like
Yes.
medieval themed,
Oh.
which sounds
Which
very
I'm
exciting
gonna be
to me.
honest, the Dark Ages like medieval themed Doom sounds fucking incredible.
Maybe that's
to
what
me.
Phil Suxer was hinting at when he was wearing that Hexen shirt. It wasn't actually about a new Hexen game. It's like a little tease for where Doom is going.
Yeah.
I'd play that. I'd play that.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, Crispy.
Yeah?
Are you ready to talk about Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, which I hear you've been having
Laser.
a whole thing with Lorelei. You've been into that game.
Yeah,
lately.
it's
Show us your
yeah.
notes.
How much time you got?
Show us your notes.
You
Show
have
us the
4
notes.
minutes on the clock starting now.
Show us the maze. Show us the maze.
You remember the maze?
Remember
you
the
remember
maze.
the maze?
Yeah,
he's-
we get some overlay spoilers.
I do have a
Spoilers!
notebook. I do
Oh
have a
man,
notebook.
he actually
You
bought
have
for
to.
everyone listening at
Mandatory.
home. Crispy actually
Notebook
busted out a
mandatory.
notebook full of notes. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
I do have a notebook. So,
You barely break it down.
Great
what
rating. So
do
who
I?
has Laser Eyes?
So that little outburst I had before the podcast, where I was like, no, I was doing one of these puzzles that you see on screen right now, and it's actually the first time I fucked one of these up. And these puzzles are like, you get it right or game over. Like,
oh shit.
Yeah, and you have to go back to whatever your last save was. Because there's a certain, so like, okay. So before I started playing this game, I saw a description on Twitter that basically they were like, "Oh yeah, this game is Resident Evil but with math instead of zombies."
With what instead of
with
zombies?
math instead of zombies.
God, that sounds awful.
And that's a bit reductive, but it's not like it. Yeah, it kind of is that.
That's fascinating to me.
Yeah. God, I don't even know where to start with this because I don't even know what the fuck's going on.
I feel like we need to just start Crispy's brain.
So the premise from what I can tell, the premise is that you are this lady whose name is Lorelei Weiss, and she's an artist and a like computer engineer. Her big like claim to fame early in her art career was that she made these like really complicated puzzle boxes. And then like later on she starts getting into like computers, electronics, and like ends up building like a supercomputer. And you are invited to this hotel by another artist, like an older gentleman named Renzo Nero or Lorenzo Nero. I can't remember. There's a Renzo and there's a Lorenzo.
That's
it's confusing. Yeah. And he's another, like, he's a real like avant-garde, like batshit psycho kind of man. Like, they talk a lot about like his art philosophies, and like he gets to this point, like his whole thing is about like interaction with art and like how art interacts with audiences, and he thinks that like audiences interacting with art like cheapens it, and he like describes his perfect movie as being like a movie that's shown in a black box with like nobody in it, and like the projectionist is led into the room to start the machine and then given ample time to leave before the movie actually starts playing. So like, just to give you an idea of where his head's at.
That's fucked up.
He invites Lorelei to this hotel in Europe somewhere to participate in an art project that he thinks that they're going to make something that is so profound that it's going to destroy like society and capitalism. Like really kind of fucking wild. But then as you get deeper into it, there's like a supernatural element to it, there's like a cult element to it. The whole game is very not like dreamlike. It's like you're not like, it doesn't feel like you're in the real world. You're in like a weird dreamlike recreation of events that have already happened or will happen. I don't know if you guys remember. Do you remember that trailer from the Game Awards? I think it was last year, where it's like a man just kind of like narrating, and he's like, you know, he's saying like he's talking about Nero, and he's saying like we want to inform you that we are no longer financing Mr. Nero's projects, and we suggest you do not participate. We think he's dangerous. And then like it kind of moves into remember the maze, remember the maze, remember the maze. The maze is kind of like thematically the center of this whole thing. The project that Nero wants Lorelei to work on is building a maze, but like he won't tell her how to build it. And like she starts building it at one point, and then he like destroys it and is like, no, start again. Yeah, it's fucking wild. And a lot of the puzzles have to do with mazes, but like the game itself, God, I don't even know how to like jump into this. The game itself is wild. Like the entirety of the game space is the hotel and it's like surrounding grounds. And it's basically like the hotel is a giant puzzle, and you're just trying to like open up rooms, find keys, solve puzzles,
so it's the Resident Evil aspect.
Yes, and I would also say that most of the puzzles are kind of on that Resident Evil level. Like it's not like The Witness where like the whole point is just like
To break you.
the game just kind of holds like the game is just kind of a container for like these puzzles, and like the puzzles are really like mental and abstract, you know? Like a lot of the puzzles that you're doing in this are very much about like spatial awareness and like navigating the space.
Right.
Even like some of the more rudimentary puzzles, like kind of the most rudimentary puzzle system in the game is they have all these shortcut doors throughout the hotel. And one of the first rooms you can go into is a library, and you find a book in the library that's just a list of puzzles, and each one has a number, and then each shortcut door has a number, and then you consult the book, you solve the puzzle tells you what number goes into a 0 to 100 dial on that shortcut door, and then that's what opens the door, right? The puzzles in that book are going to be the kind of stuff like you might find like in a logic test or something in school. Like they're very like textbook, they're very like, here's a string of numbers, and then like the middle number is blacked out and it says what should that number be. It's a lot of identifying patterns. Yeah, exactly. A lot of like identifying logic, and then just like using that to kind of fill in the blanks. This section that I'm in right now is one of the mazes. And this is like, so when you gain access to this maze is when like things go from weird to like really weird. There's like a window in the mansion in the hotel, where like an old woman is like floating in like a red dream world beyond it, and she like pulls you into the maze, and you use her to get out. It's actually this woman who's right here.
Ooh.
And then you can navigate through this maze to get to the center, and then in the center is a puzzle that you have to like have solved other puzzles outside of the maze to solve that one, and then that gives you access to the grave at the center of the maze. And I said that this is one of multiple mazes because this maze appears in several different ways and several different points in the game, and it's the same layout. Like, it's the same maze. And the maze itself is split into a grid formation, so there's 9 sections.
Okay.
What you're seeing me do right now is I'm going around and I'm picking up the tablets that correspond to each section of the maze because I need them to do something in a different part of the game. The kind of like trick that the game plays on you here, though, is that when you pull the tablet of that section,
it breaks
reality. So like your view of the maze gets obscured, and then you kind of have to like rely on your memory or like trying to just kind of
remember the maze.
Yeah, remember the maze.
Remember the maze.
But what's really cool is that like Lorelei has a photographic memory. So every document, every book, every like anything you come across in the game gets added to your photographic memory, and you can go and reference them at any time. And very early on, you find a map of the maze that like points out where all these things are. So there's another version of the maze where there's like you go into a mirror, and then you're in like a first person view of a different maze that's laid out exactly the same way. It's either first person or it's a very close like third person. So it's like you're experiencing the same space
from a different perspective.
And there's like different goals going on inside that maze that correspond with what's going on here. And I think at one point they even like I said, how the maze is like broken up into a grid, like 3x3 grid of 9 sections. I think that grid of sections, like they start using the maze sections as like an alphabet or as like numbers to indicate.
It starts to get like puzzles. It's like
it's very like puzzles and puzzles and puzzles and puzzles.
Very Tunic like,
right? Yes, it is. It is like that, and it's very much about like pulling on threads and just kind of like following where they go. I haven't been overly like mentally taxed by a lot of the puzzles in this game. There's been like maybe 2 instances so far where I've gotten like genuinely stuck and I just didn't really quite like grok the concept that they're trying to present. Because there will be a lot of times where it's like they're showing you symbols or numbers or letters, but their usage is much more symbolic than like, you know, like you're seeing a bunch of numbers and it's not really telling you to do math. It's telling you to look at like the shape of the numbers or some shit like that, you know? Like it's really, really weird.
So, but you're saying you're not getting stuck on puzzles, but are you finding
I'm
the
not
solutions to be
getting
satisfying?
There's a lot of puzzles in here where like I solve them and I'm like, I'm a fucking genius. Like yeah, like
So yes.
yeah, I do feel like there's like the way things dovetail into one another and the way that like the game is really good at teaching you concepts and like lines of logic that are consistent throughout the game. So at a certain point, like you feel like you're kind of like speaking the game's language. Um, it is it it becomes a thing where it's like early on it's really easy to make progress because there's so many different threads and so many different directions to go, and then as you kind of like open up the hotel and those threads condense a little bit, it becomes much more difficult. And there are definitely a few, so there are like a few puzzles that I think are like actually difficult, or like actually like, you really kind of have to think outside the box on this one. There's a lot that are pretty like I said, like right in that like Resident Evil area, like
Yeah.
where it's like just a bunch of Resident Evil puzzles. Like the puzzles are meant to be engaging and fun and give you a sense of accomplishment when you complete them, but they're not like trying to weed people out like say The
Right.
Witness, you know what I mean?
I mean,
And then
that's the sweet spot for me. That's my jam.
yeah, and then
Witness is a
there's
sweet spot.
No.
No, he means the Resident
Evil
puzzles.
style puzzles. Like that's
Oh.
like.
I heard this game is hard. This is the one where the developer was out there saying like, "Look, we don't expect everybody to finish this game, and we don't care."
It's tough. So like, here's the thing: like, it's tough, and you can definitely complete the game. I've been looking on like the Steam forums, pretty frequently, and the one thing I'm noticing is that there's a lot of people finishing the game. There's a lot of people like completing the narrative of the game. Not a lot of people getting 100%.
Okay.
Like a lot of people getting like 99%.
It could be an
but
Animal
not,
Well situation where it's like
not hitting
rolling
100%.
credits doesn't mean you finish the game per se.
Right. And Simogo was apparently on Twitter saying like nobody has found the secret yet. Like there's some kind of
the secret,
deeper secret in the game that nobody has hit on yet.
Nobody's seen the Matrix code yet.
So,
yeah.
A couple things. One, I worry about like the success of this game and the fact that like I don't think it's selling all that well, and if that's actually, so Animal Well was a game that a lot of people played, so people are probably going to find those secrets quicker because so many people are playing this. Do you feel like this is a game that if not a lot of people are playing, maybe those bigger secrets might just go undiscovered? But that's just speculation.
I don't know.
The other thing is, because I mean, the way you describe
I
the
guess
story
I don't really have
about
a
the
sense.
black box and art that no one sees or whatever, and now I'm worried about like, like, is there meta stuff going on there? Like, is this talking about like another Simogo game that no one played? Anyways, no, my question is, or the thing that I see come up that most often is as far as like the negative that almost everyone agrees on from what I've seen in reviews and people discussions about this game is that people seem really frustrated with the UI, including that the button that brings up the menu is the same button you use to interact with things, and that there's no back button. Has Simogo talked at all about like some quality of life? Because I see everybody complaining about this.
I see people complaining about that a lot. I don't
like. There's no back button.
I really don't understand the criticism though, because I don't know. I mean, I think it's more of like, it's not that this control scheme doesn't make sense. It's just that people like, it's like how they put like jump buttons in games that don't need jump buttons because like you just feel like you need that like fidget of being able to jump. Well, I don't know. I don't think like you can play this game one-handed. You have directional keys which move the character. It's like tank control movement. And then you have spacebar, which you hit spacebar when you're not like up against something contextual, and you hit spacebar, it brings up the menu where you can access photographic memory and possessions. But it's also your interact. So like if you're looking at like So, for instance, you might even see it here in this footage at some point, but like I'll look at a door, interact with the door to like see what puzzle is on the door, and then I hit the interact button again to get out, and then I turn the character around so that she's not facing the contextual trigger, and then I hit the interact button again to bring up the menu to reference whatever I'm going to reference, right? And everything, there's an X at the top of the screen, so like you hit something, like you go into the menu, you scroll down to what you want to look at, you hit space to look at the thing, you hit space again to close it out, you scroll back up to the X button to close the menu, like that kind of thing, right? And I don't know, like I guess people are really upset about that, but
it's a simplicity
it's not a problem.
I mean,
to
this
me.
game reviewed very
I
well.
feel like
it's
it's such a non-problem. It just feels like
everywhere. So you don't think the developer would fix any of that?
I don't think they would, because I think they designed it this way to make it work on phones.
Yeah, I was about to say, is the simplicity of it because of the fact that the phone compatibility is the most important thing to them? I suppose.
I don't think it's a thing that needs to be fixed. I don't know. That's just
haven't all of their games been on mobile? I'm gonna look this up right now.
So what's happening here is, to get back to what I was talking about at the beginning, when we started talking about this kind of puzzle is a sort of puzzle that opens up about it opens up after you go into the maze for the first time. Once you go into the maze for the first time, there's like an interaction with a character who says like
not on my phone. Sorry.
Who says what?
I didn't find the app in the app store.
There's a character who's like, oh, so now they're gonna be hunting for you, like they're coming for you, get ready. So now, like at certain points in the game, just it's either triggered by making progress or it's like random. Like you'll be walking around and Lorelei's eyes will start to like they'll start to like laser on and off, and like there will be like static on the screen and it like glitches around, and then one of these 9 maze head guys shows up, and it takes you into this like interrogation scene where they're pointing a gun at you, and they're like they slide a script page across the table, and they're like, there's details that aren't adding up, please try to remember. And then you remember a scene, you have to memorize like what's going on in the scene spatially, like you have to just like note as many details as possible. Then you say, okay, I'm ready, and then they ask you one question about the scene, about a detail in the scene. It's a multiple choice of like 6 possible answers. If you get it right, they give you the script page and you've completed that puzzle. If you get it wrong, they shoot you and it's game over.
Is that one of the puzzles you messed up?
Yeah. And I was gonna say that like this, I was gonna use this as an example of like it's a spatial reasoning kind of thing. It's just about like memorizing a space. And it's really easy. I've never failed one before until today. I failed one, and it was because like there was like a box with like a bunch of keys in it, and then there was a key on the floor, and then there were like how many keys were in the box. There was 4 in the box, 1 on the floor, and I said 5, but I like at the last second as I was hitting the button, I said like, oh no, only in the box. Like yeah.
You done goofed.
How is
fucking weird. Yeah.
I mean, this scene, man, I love the vibes here. I love the look of this. Does it sound
the vibes
good? Is the music good? The sound
incredible.
effects?
Yes.
Like I want to play this so bad. This makes a lot of the other games I've been playing lately seem like
the audio design is incredible. The music is so weird and creepy. Like the vibes are absolutely immaculate. And yeah, I mean like it's just a weird, like I still don't know exactly what's going on, and I haven't finished. I tried as hard as I could to finish before today, and I haven't. But like to give you an idea, like this game is supposed to take place like in 1963, but one of the first items you pick up is like a Game Boy. Like yeah, and there's puzzles where you have to like there will be rooms with these weird typewriter machines in them. You have to solve a puzzle to figure out a code, and then you enter that code into the machine, and it prints out an error report for like a video game that's being tested, and it lists all these different bugs that are can be replicated in a game. and then you go find a video game console that looks like a Nintendo or like an old Sega. You play this like PS1 version of like a Lorelei and the Laser Eyes game. You do the different things in the bug report that like that cause the game to crash, and every time you get the game to crash, it gives you a new error code, and you're collecting those error codes for something. I don't know what yet. But like there's so many different just like weird kinds of like types of puzzle in this game that are so fucking cool, and it's all this like huge mishmash because like I said, it's very dreamlike. It has to do with like time. It has to do with events, like a cyclical event that happened like in 1847, 1963, 2014, and then like other time periods.
And all this time, you as a player, as a character, you have full reign to kind of explore the halls and the surrounding grounds in like a fully 3D space. Like
as much as you're solving puzzles to unlock doors, yeah, for sure. It's like the hotel is a giant puzzle that you're like escape rooming your way through, you know.
This sounds like maybe the first Simogo game I should play, especially considering I'm just saying.
Oh, you know what? They have an ad for Year Walk 2 in this game.
This motherfucker. See, I had a conversation with Nick where he said, so I thought Nick bid on this because he looked at this shit and he's like, dude, this looks dope.
It does.
And then he was like, this is like the opposite of a heart pick for me. Which
well,
means
no, I didn't. This was before reviews came out, and I didn't know how Resident Evil it was. Like, I didn't know everybody was going to be calling it.
There's no combat or anything.
Well, I know there's no combat,
no, that's what I'm talking
but
about.
that's not what I care about with Resident Evil. Like, I didn't know you were going to be basically exploring this giant hotel, like free reign, like, and all the puzzles were going to be kind of like reminiscent of Resident Evil.
Oh,
like
when you bid on it, you didn't know what this game was?
Dude, you're not listening.
Well,
stop trying to corner me into saying I didn't know what this game was. I knew what the game was.
I assumed you knew what it was because you spent a ton of money on it.
I didn't know.
I'm more talking about whether you thought it was for you or not. Like you were like, I don't know if I'm going to play this.
I mean, I'm just saying because I bounced off of Year Walk. Device 6 was not a game that really spoke to me in any way, but I looked at this and I was like, okay, this looks more like kind of my jam, and it's more of like exploration base and it has cool vibes.
I think you dig.
No,
this.
I know. That's why I thought it would be a game for you. You were the one who kind of said, this wasn't really a heart pick for me. And I was just kind of surprised because I thought
at the time
this was like super up your alley because you love The Witness and all that kind of crazy puzzle shit. You love Resident Evil. It's like a marriage of two things you love.
Except I bounced really hard off of Year Walk, and it's just, like Simogo has so far.
But that's just like a relatively simple game.
What do you want me to tell you, Brad? What do you mean to tell you? When I picked this game for Fantasy Critic specifically, it was not a pick from the heart. It was a game that I was like, I don't think I'm going to play this. I don't have any intention of playing this. It looks kind of cool, but I don't think it's going to be for me because this studio has never made a game that really resonated with me.
No, I think you should play this, Nick. I'm
certainly thinking I should play
this.
The
world is very, it's very contiguous, like the mansion in Resident Evil 1 or like Raccoon City Police Department.
Yeah, and that's
Also,
yes, please.
You love these days, I'd say you're pretty like puzzle game pilled as well.
Puzzle pilled?
Yeah, puzzle pilled.
Like hey, look, Simogo broke me once. They broke me, and it was just like, I don't...
Year Walk. It was like one puzzle in Year Walk, and you just wrote this whole devil.
Yeah.
Basically. I mean, I just like,
but even then, you still kind of admired that relatively simple game from a decade ago.
Yes, absolutely. I wish it's like one of those games. Like I wish I could figure that puzzle out.
I'm saying this doesn't even kind of resemble Year Walk. So like you had to. I mean,
they do have a style. They do have a pretty. I mean, like this is pretty unique looking, but it's also like you told me this is a Simogo game. I'm like, I believe you.
This looks more like Sayonara Wild Hearts for sure.
Right.
You gonna look up anyone?
Oh, there's a video game retailer that you can call. So there's a phone in the game that you use to solve a lot of problems by calling people, and eventually you find an ad for a video game retailer, and you can call them and buy video games that they mail to you. and when you hang up, like when you're done talking to them, the guy on the other end says "Sayonara, Wild Heart," and like hangs up.
Also, I don't know if any of y'all have played it, but I highly recommend Sayonara Wild Hearts. It's just kind of like a good vibes, like gameplay wise in that game. It's just kind of like whatever, but man, like the soundtrack and the visuals and like the actual story that's going on there, like top notch. Y'all should absolutely play that game.
Yeah.
It's cheap, and
I don't doubt.
I even think it works well on a phone.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of a device 6. It's like anybody could finish that game.
Cool.
Well, I haven't finished it yet, so I don't really know how it sticks to the landing.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, it's
I
reviewing
feel
pretty
like-
well, so I don't think it's like screwing the pooch at the end.
Yeah, I feel like it's
I
gonna.
don't think, anyways.
I mean, this is. I mean, I feel like this is a pretty special game. It's really good.
Yes, it looks
I'm
like it.
I'm
It was
loving
lost in
it.
the shuffle, and I'm
This is
mad.
definitely a top 10 like material sort of game.
Yeah, so I'm gonna need your
Miss
Steam
Black-
information, Crispy, because I don't have
Oh,
access to your
no,
library.
support
I've been
the
waiting
dev.
for someone to buy it.
Support the
Like I
dev.
said,
You have a job.
May has been crazy. May has been.
I mean, I might
fucking
pick
crazy,
it up
bro.
too, but then again, you don't have my Steam information either.
How much
So
does this game
that's
cost?
by choice. Crispy will just give it to me tonight if I ask.
It's $25 for this.
Brad, I have said on multiple shows that I need to give you my Steam information. And then as soon as the show's
And then
over, you're like,
and then
then you
Brad has the
Just
next
make
line
your
in the
children
script, and you
skip
disappear.
one meal.
You always disappear from the story after you say that.
you literally sign off of this podcast. You ghost us. You
Okay,
literally
no one's-
ghost us,
Everyone's going to bed. Okay.
and then and then we don't talk again until.
All right, tomorrow evening we're gonna
All right,
figure this out.
It's a date.
All right.
All right.
Nolan, what do you think about this?
I mean, I think it looks interesting for sure. It's one of those things where I have plenty of games to play though, and so it's just one of those
Yeah,
things.
no,
that
I know.
it's tough, man.
Just,
I'll tell you what, that
Mm.
trailer though, do you remember the Maze trailer? It's so differently now. Like everything in that trailer.
Oh shit!
That's
like,
my-
yeah.
I love that shit. I love it. I love it.
good.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about Hellblade 2. Chris Davis, I don't know if you had any intention of actually talking about Dead Rising 2, but you mentioned it.
Dead Rising 2.
You're muted. Just
He said no.
I can talk a little bit about it.
okay. Anyways, we'll do that, and then of course we'll wrap up with the 4-player minute. So if you're watching, oh yeah, and Fantasy Critic, we haven't talked about Fantasy Critic. We do that at the end of the show. So if you're watching us live or listening at home, don't go anywhere. We'll be back. We'll be back after this short break. Welcome back to the show. Big game to talk about. You ready?
Is it? Isn't this more of a triple I game?
Triple I. I'm trying to figure. What's
Of
the
a
I?
double
What
Indie
am I-
game, right? Triple I.
Hmm.
I mean, they're not indie anymore, right? But this isn't a triple A game. This is a triple I game.
I see what you're doing now. So yeah, I played Senua
What does the A
Saga.
stand for in AAA, Brad?
Yeah, that's a good point, Nolan.
I have no idea, but triple I was a thing people were saying when Hellblade 1 came out.
All right.
Really? Because this is the first time I've heard it, and I feel like I would have seen that. But anyways,
You're
I played
forgetting
through.
stuff. Did you forget? Remember in Hellblade 1 when the developer said if you die in the game it deletes your save? Yeah, that was part of the marketing until basically they had to admit that they're just lying.
I like how
don't
you're saying. I
recall
like how you
that.
keep saying the developer when we're talking about Ninja Theory,
Theory.
which is a pretty prominent
Yeah.
developer, right?
That was a big thing
Um,
about this game. Is like, oh man, it's gonna matter because if you die too much, we're gonna delete your save. And then they were like, nah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I would imagine there's probably some backlash to that, which forced them to, if they were. I mean, who knows if that feature ever existed in the first place? But
I just like when they lie,
and
It's
that.
funny. Like when
Um,
David Jaffe said, "No, my next game is not a Twisted Metal, guys. Calm down." And then like the following week, they announced Twisted Metal. I was lying, motherfuckers. He's an idiot.
But doesn't that make you happy though that he was lying?
You can't just lie. You can't lie. These are professionals, okay? Stop it.
This is the internet.
Are they,
no one
though?
goes on the internet and just tells lies.
Oh my God.
Not that work at like companies, first
All
party
right.
companies. You can't do this.
All right. Listen. This weekend I finished the Blades, right? I finished Stellar Blade, and then I jumped right into Senua Saga Hellblade 2. And I finished it. I finished
The
that
prettiest
game.
game ever made.
It's up there. I will.
You know, you
honest to God, say this. It's
a
up
small
there.
aside before we get into it. You showed me the picture of like, you know what? I think I'm gonna start Rise of the Ronin, and I was like, he's gonna go from the prettiest game ever to the ugliest ever. No,
Okay. You know,
there's no chance.
I'm not here to talk about Rise of the Ronin. I will talk about it eventually, but I have not played nearly enough to talk about it. But I'll tell you this: that is not the prettiest looking game. But
It's
having
not
it,
fair
like,
coming from Senua.
but I am glad that I'm like I do have a nice TV and it has HDR, and that really helps. Like it's vibrant.
Sure.
It's a vibrant
Sure.
game, and it really helps. It does look like an early PS4 game though. Which I think is still fine. It's no Ghost of Tsushima though, that's for sure.
They ship games.
They do ship games. There's no arguing that.
Ninja Theory.
But let's talk about
how many years making this game.
Okay, listen. I feel like you're already setting this up. Like you haven't even heard how I feel about the game, and regardless of how I may feel about it, you're already setting this up to like trash talk it. Look,
What? No.
You're
All I said it was short. I just said it was short.
Nolan's over here. He knows what I'm talking about. I saw that. Look.
I know
kind
all
of
of y'all
our
like
brand.
Hellblade, right? That first one, all of y'all like Hellblade, right?
That was-
A
it
lot
was-
of people
yeah.
did.
It was on my
Well, no,
top
I'm
10
saying
that
on the
year.
podcast, like I think specifically Nick, Nolan, and Crispy, all big fans. I don't remember Chris Davis's take.
I did. I played it. I liked
Sure.
it.
It was
We
in my
all
top
enjoyed
10
it.
that year for a reason. Now look, we've talked a lot about expectations. I mean, it was hard not to talk about expectations with this game because leading up to it, there was just, first of all, especially right up until launch, there was fucking no marketing, and before that, there was just like they went these huge long periods of time without showing any of the game, and when they did show it, it was like, well, are you just showing us cutscenes or story stuff? Like, what's the meat of this game? Like, because everybody's kind of expecting a sequel. And I think that's just. I think this is a side effect of just kind of like the state of the industry and the state of like the consumers in this industry they expect games as a series gets older, they expect games to get bigger and more expansive and more what's the word I'm looking for? Ambitious, I suppose.
Bigger, better, and
from
more
game to game.
badass, as
Right.
Cliffy B once said. But to
Sure.
be fair, Ninja Theory was a quote unquote indie studio, and when they released Hellblade 1, it looked like a AAA game, but it didn't have the scope of a AAA game, and that's
Sure.
probably because they were a smaller developer. That DMC, they were working with Capcom, they had a lot more money. Hellblade seemed like more of an artsy passion project. So when they got purchased by Microsoft, the narrative everyone just sort of assumed, well, now they have the time and the money, and this was in development for a long time.
Well,
This
I
is going
think
to be a bigger thing. This is going to be Microsoft's God of War.
I
don't
do
know.
believe this was in development for quite a while before they were actually acquired by Microsoft. So I don't know if that acquisition did anything to actually change the project other than give them more support to make it more polished, because it is a very polished game, but it's a very polished game that feels like an extension of Hellblade 1. Like, if you're going into this expecting this to be more open or more emphasis on exploration, less emphasis on story, deeper combat, like it's not. It's just none of those things. And it's comparable to the first one in terms of its length too. Like, obviously that's what you said. Like, I finished this game in about 9 hours, but I spent like a good 2 to 2.5 hours messing around with the photo mode because it's one of the prettiest games I've ever seen. And the photo mode, luckily, is quite good. So I couldn't help myself. But yeah, I think this game does what it set out to do, and it does what the first game set out to do in a very big way. But it doesn't show a lot of. It's almost like they had no interest in making a game that differentiated itself from the first game mechanically at all. Like that was never part of the design doc. Yeah, it is exactly the same game mechanically as that
the first one
game.
was like, I played a little bit of it. It's like combat's kind of punch out, right?
Kind of. Yeah, I mean, there's no UI to speak of, not to speak of. There's no UI on the screen. It is so when you're in these like tight one-on-one combat encounters, you're reading their movements and trying to decide whether you want to block, or dodge, grapple, or like roll to
Pattern
different sides.
recognition.
Yeah, so it's pattern recognition and trying to identify the best use of your movement, right? And to their credit, the thing that they do in this game that I think is they do really, really well is they've made these combat scenarios really intense, like from a like framing standpoint and like just kind of making it feel like super fucking visceral. Like there's some crazy like what you're seeing on screen right now is a very early one, but there's some later in the game where you're just like in a village that's like on fire and there's like the Draugr, like the creatures that you see in God of War, right? But maybe a more menacing version of those. You're just surrounded by them and they're just like people are getting massacred around you and you're kind of just like in the midst of the action and there's people coming in and out of the fight and like knocking like you could be like about to like deliver a killing blow on one enemy and then someone else knocks another enemy from off screen into them, which knocks them out of your view, and suddenly you're fighting a different guy, and then like it just kind of goes around until everybody's dead. So but people are going in and out of your your combat situation really fluidly, and it makes some of the most like just ridiculous action sequences feel really, really good. But with that said, the combat is just super simplistic. And I've seen people say like this is more simplistic than the first game, and they might be right. It's been a long time since I've played that first game. I don't really feel that way. I feel like it's about the same. But it is just interesting to me that like almost all of the ambition in this game was obviously went into the visuals and how can we make the story resonate better. And I think they succeed.
Fun?
Here's the thing, Brad. I would never recommend this game to you because I don't think you would find it fun at all. It is a game. Like there are like let me just tell you this. Like, and this was kind of the same way in the first game too, which is another big surprise. I was like, I was expecting them to maybe add things to like because you can kind of like wander off the beaten path periodically and find these like hidden things that will like tell like it almost sounds like Mimir from God of War, like telling you stories and like folklore and stuff. So it's kind of fun to find those and hear these like stories. She basically in the game she travels, she lets herself get abducted by these slavers that are invading her land, and they take her to Iceland. So she is coming to this foreign land that she's never been in before. So she is like finding these things, and she's reading and hearing these stories about Icelandic folklore and stuff. And that stuff's pretty cool. But like there's only basically two kinds of collectibles in this game, and they're the same thing. You kind of look like they funnel you to these very beautifully crafted linear paths, and you have to kind of keep your eyes peeled for like branching opportunities, and you kind of go off the beaten path for a second, you wander, you maybe climb on top of a thing, and then boom, there's this like totem that you can look at, and when you focus on the totem, a voice comes in and starts telling you a story. The other one is actually kind of cool, but it's a one-trick pony kind of thing. You have to kind of like look through the environment, and if you see like a rock formation that looks like a face, you focus on it's actually really cool. Like you focus on the face, and then it does this really weird shift of reality where the camera kind of starts to pan, and you realize you're not looking at like a stone that looks like a face. You're looking at a pathway that's going back into a rock formation, and just the way you're looking at it looks like a face. So then suddenly you can walk into this space that didn't really technically exist before. It's really hard to explain. But it's actually a really cool like visual feat, I guess. But like once you find that, you go in there and the little tree sprouts up and it tells you a story. Like that's it. That's all there is as far as
a podcast. And two of the people that were talking about Hellblade both played Hellblade 1 right before starting this, and they both said that what you said about combat, that it's even more simplified. They also said that there's even less puzzle variety in this one versus the first one, which is crazy. It's like the opposite of what is this game? Is this game doing anything new that's like different or like better than the first game outside of being prettier?
Look.
Is the story better or cooler or similar?
I think the story thing is up for debate because the interesting thing about the story of Hellblade has always been kind of like they wanted to find a way to kind of tell a story that kind of makes people understand mental illness or makes people understand what it might be like to experience the world as someone who's like I don't know, schizophrenic or something, right? And the first game I've heard they were knowing nothing about that myself, I've heard they were pretty successful or pretty. They made some. They did it, and people at least respected them and they appreciated it because they found a really interesting way to tell a story. And Senua as a character, I think, is really great. And the second one, I think it feels like a natural kind of continuation of her story. It feels like they've done pretty much the exact same kind of thing here. The one big difference, like the first game, you spend almost, if I remember correctly, you spend that entire game kind of by yourself. Like it's a very solo. There's not a lot of supporting cast. It's you, and you're seeing like visions and stuff, but it's always Senua, and you're always fighting these like monsters and whatever. But you're learning about her backstory and going on this journey with her. In this game, you actually meet like 3 or 4 like supporting characters that you interact with as actual people, and
That's weird.
and it's almost like at some points it's almost like you're traveling like with an RPG party. Like she's wandering through the woods that are
Is that a
like
plus?
3 people.
Like, is that a good thing for the atmosphere?
I think
or like
well, I
the
think it's a good
story?
thing. I think it's a good thing because I think all the characters are really interesting, and the roles they play are really interesting because like one of the characters is one of the slavers that brought her over. One of the characters is like native people who live on the island in a different tribe, and they're all very antagonistic against each other for obvious reasons. But like seeing them kind of like find common ground and understand what Senua is doing for them and like why they're kind of like suddenly putting all of their like they're all like trying to change their ways because they think that she is like her presence on this island means something is really interesting, and I think it makes the story pretty good. I've heard some people say that they're not happy with the way they kind of represented the mental illness aspects of it in this game, and I'm not really sure what the source of that is, but I'm not going to say they're wrong or anything. But it's all pretty much par for the course. It seems like they've found their formula with the first game and just made more of that.
You know how sometimes we say, "Oh, this game doesn't need a sequel." This feels like it was so artsy and singular and not your typical video game experience. Of anything
Mhm.
that didn't maybe need a sequel, maybe it was this.
I mean, here's the thing.
Unless they were gonna maybe do something very different.
Look, I think from a storytelling standpoint, this game more than justifies its existence. I think
Yeah, but
I
it's
think
just
Ninja Theory. It's weird because I think Ninja Theory as a studio makes sense as an acquisition for Xbox, but having this be their first game for Xbox is
Yeah.
kind of
Well, it wasn't
strange
their first
because,
game.
well, no,
Bleeding
for
Edge
Xbox. Oh, did that come after the acquisition?
came out on Xbox. Yeah. No, it was after purchase.
But it was in
It
development
almost felt
before purchase.
like when they purchased them, Bleeding Edge came out a little bit after. It almost seemed like, all right, dude, just get this shit out, wrap it up. We know this, we're sending this to die. Finish this shit up so everybody can work on Hellblade. But then
But
Hellblade,
then here's the thing.
it's expensive looking.
It's expensive looking, and it is definitely for a very specific kind of, it's tailored to someone who's looking for a very specific kind of thing.
Okay. Let me ask you though, why did people not want to play the sequel to this when the
Well, I'll
first
tell you why.
game
They didn't fucking market it for
sold?
one. There was no marketing for this game at all, zero. Like it,
Even
and I know that
even then,
I know that's reductive.
the Gulf, and so according to SteamDB, and these are based on estimates from various sources, that Hellblade 1 sold anywhere from 1.5 million to 2 million to more than that on just Steam alone. Also came out on PS4 and other stuff. I'm sure it did well there.
Right.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
The numbers for Hellblade 2 are fucking tragic.
Dude,
Like
it's
estimates are like 50,000,
I'm telling you,
which
dude.
is a
Marketing
bomb that
I'm fucking telling you, dude. A huge part of that is just the
I
marketing.
agree with you
Xbox
that
didn't
games
do
are
anything.
being
while I
marketed,
will say,
but a game that's this pretty, that's in all the Microsoft showcase, I'm starting to see ads in front of things. Like it's a
well,
very
Brad,
expensive,
there's a difference
pretty-looking
between
game.
it being in a showcase and them letting
No,
people
I
know
agree.
when it's about to come out.
I agree.
So what I will
I'm
say
seeing
is
ads.
to Nick's to kind of counter Nick, there wasn't zero marketing, but on a like a exponential scale, a logarithmic scale, even yes, there was barely any marketing, which is baffling as to why there was as little. I'm not saying there was none because there definitely was some, but so the question remains: why, with a popular game as Hellblade Senua Sacrifice, did the second one have as little as it did. It's very odd. It's kind of
The
strange.
golf.
I'm not a conspiracy theory kind of person, but it's weird.
It
The
feels
golf
like
is weird. Yes.
it
very
does
much so.
feel a little like they were very excited about the prospect of the project, and then at some point they decided that this was not really what Xbox as a brand is like. Like this feels very much like kind of what PlayStation would normally go for, right? These very like
Well,
cinematic,
remember,
story-driven
Hellblade
things.
1 was a PlayStation exclusive for a while,
Yes,
wasn't it?
yes,
Yeah, when I launched.
and I'm just not sure I'm not really sure what made Ninja Theory appealing to Xbox specifically as a studio to acquire, because they
made
don't
pretty games. And
they made pretty games, but they don't really make games that seem to like really speak to Xbox's like just kind of like their general
yes, they
Style.
did make DMC.
catalog.
Enslaved was really
Yeah.
good. Alex Garland's Enslaved, you know, and even Heavenly Sword. Like those are video games.
I know, but
Hellblade's like an art project, which is fine, but like
it's just like, but like when they were developing Hellblade when they acquired the studio, I just don't know what they look if they why they looked at this project and were like, yeah, Ninja Theory is what we need right now. Like it's
even
it's just
Hellblade,
not.
I'm pretty. Even
This would
Hellblade, I'm
make
pretty
so
sure
much more.
started as a sequel to Heavenly Sword. I mean, there's no.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the
Yeah,
title.
because
Heavenly Sword, Hellblade, and even the character kind of looked like back then, kind of looked like Nariko, right? Where and they said that the story for
Well,
the
don't
sequel
forget
was she was going to
Naruto's
go
like
into hell to get
well, don't forget
Nariko, not
Naruto's like
Nariko,
her sister,
her
her
kid
little
sister. What's her face?
yeah,
Twing Twang. She was
yeah.
going to go to hell. There was going to be a game where you played as her, and she was going to get the Heavenly Sword, or she was going to rescue Naruko. And I mean, that's kind of
That is
right.
yeah. That sounds like the basis of what
Which, as
became
again,
Hellblade.
starts as a sequel to a video game, turns into this really expensive artsy game.
Right.
I just don't. How can so many people buy a game? It review well. It's received well in terms of like user reviews, and then like
You're
I
also
mean, it's
talking
not like
about
Animal Well. Like they were too busy playing Animal Well to know that Hellblade was coming out. I know it's
Brad,
on
you would be
Microsoft in
surprised
parts.
how if there's not something on the homepage of Steam or my friend tells me or something. There are many times, not everyone does a podcast. Not every gamer is constantly
I
in
know.
touch with everything that's going on, and it very easily goes like if they aren't told, they don't know.
also
You know
you got to remember
how many things has like Microsoft put out for pre-order bonuses? People like shit on
But
pre-order bonuses
even
all the time, and I'm not
even
saying like I'm not telling people to pre-order games, but I'm saying if you don't pre-order the game and then it comes out and maybe you were busy, whatever, all of a sudden it can easily just like, oops, I forgot
I'm
that
just
game
saying,
was the
multiple
thing.
millions of people played this game. Maybe when you turn on Steam, you don't see it, but when you turn on your Xbox, they got shit all over these. They
also
control what you put on there, where they're not like Hellblade, like little fucking squares saying out now
look.
or coming
I
out,
don't
coming
know.
soon.
I don't.
Watch the
Don't
I
trailer.
don't know.
forget
I don't have an Xbox.
don't forget two things.
Those are normies
This
that have
came out.
Xboxes.
This game came out right after Xbox lost a lot of goodwill. Like,
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that's like
but to his point, normies also don't care about them shutting down Tango. But millions of people have Xboxes, and I'm sure they see Hellblade when they turn it on, right?
I would be
It's
curious
just
to know what because I play this on Game Pass. Like, I want to know how many people play this on Game Pass versus how many people are
no.
paying
I mean,
for it, and if
look,
those numbers that we're
that's always
seeing
going to be
are
a thing, right? But like, you still got to look at
as long
like
as
the
Game
golf.
Pass
You still got to look
exists.
at the ratio, the proportions. Like, it is a shockingly
I
low
don't know what you want me.
number.
I just don't know what you want me
Like
to tell you.
according to this, it is being outsold by Ayuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, a Kickstarter spiritual successor to Suikoden, also not a huge franchise, and that's also on Game Pass. It doesn't
Look,
make sense. These are shocking numbers.
yes, but Brad, I'm gonna keep saying it, and we can
It's
move
so
on.
pretty.
I'm gonna keep no.
Okay,
I'm gonna
I
keep.
know. There's no solution here, but I feel
It
like
was
someone's
in.
got to have a fucking answer.
It was. I mean, my answer. I still think it comes down to the fact that they just at some point Xbox seemed like they just gave up or something. They did not market this game, not to
Well,
anybody's standard.
Xbox executive disagrees with you,
Listen,
but
listen. It was embarrassing. People. It was a week before launch. Somebody tweeted about, "Hey, where's the marketing for Hellblade?" A bunch of people responded to it saying, essentially, "This tweet is the reason I know this game is coming out in a week. Where's the marketing?" And then Microsoft or Xbox tweeted the next day, Hellblade 2 Senua Saga coming to Xbox June whatever or May whatever, and it with a picture of the game. That was the extent of the tweet, and that was all they did. It was embarrassing. It was like, okay, we got to do.
But it's also not. Okay, so Aaron Greenberg on Twitter says our global paid media campaign started yesterday across YouTube, HBO Max, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, in-feed, promoted posts, search, and Samsung. Our special Iceland creator event is happening now, including hands-on with the game. We'll keep folks posted as more drops like cinema, out of home, brand partnerships, endemic gaming, site takeover, Spotify, Amazon streaming, Fire TV, new paid Instagram, Facebook, social, much more on the road to launch. I mean,
the visibility.
What is that in reference?
Aaron Greenberg saying like, "Hey, we do have a fucking campaign, and it's not all started now, but it's coming." I don't think IU didn't had all that. I don't think you saw IU Chronicle
like they haven't started. They haven't started.
No. I'm sorry. This post was from May 8th.
But just wait.
So hold on. So like a couple of weeks before the game out is when they plan to start marketing it.
Yeah, but I'm saying like it's
you don't think that's insane, Brad? That a couple of weeks before a game out is when they're like, hey, we're about to start telling people about this game.
Well, it's not saying that there was zero before that. Again, there was trailers and preview coverage, and I don't fucking know. I mean,
I think it also comes down to
marketing cycles are a little different now, really. I mean,
it also comes down to this. The first game was successful because a lot of people didn't really know what it was, and it was doing something kind of fresh and new. I think a lot of people may have played that game and were like, okay, I don't know if I need to play another one, or I don't know if I need to play another one, especially if I'm gonna have to pay a bunch of money for it. And this is not a cheap game, so they're not. I mean, this is not one of those games you can go spend $20 on and play. I mean, unless you have if you have a Game Pass subscription, right? So a lot of people may have just kind of been like, well, I'm definitely not going to spend $60 or $70 on this. But there was also just something to be said about the fact that people all the way up until this marketing campaign that you just talked about, like every time they showed it, it was all like practically cinematic stuff.
But well, I mean, there's trailers with gameplay. Also, I'm looking at the footage of you quote unquote playing the game, and not all of it looks like a video game. I mean, that's just what the game is.
It's a very cinematic game, for sure.
It is a very cinematic game. Look, we spent so much time talking about the marketing. I've said everything I feel like I need to say about this game. I don't hate this game. I don't dislike this game. In fact, I think I think I like it about as much as the first one. There's actually one really, really cool level or chapter in this game that is just straight up like it feels like an homage. Like somebody in the team is like a really big fan of like The Descent. That's all I'm gonna say. It's really fucking cool. But yeah, if you like the first one, I think this is an easy one to recommend, especially if you have Game Pass. But like, it's just set your expectations accordingly, because it's like one of the most linear games I've played in a really long time. And I think there's also something just to be said in general about the fact that like I feel like the whole industry at this point has been conditioned to like basically make it. It almost feels like it's been conditioned to say that games like this shouldn't exist. You know what I mean? Like, it's linear, therefore it's it's just like if it's not open world, if there's not a certain amount of like exploration and freedom, like why even bother? And they're pushing back on that a little bit. Like, they clearly have a vision, they clearly know what they wanted to make, and they do it remarkably well. But you just gotta know what you're getting yourself into when you play this game. So that's all.
Krispy, you like that first one? Why aren't you playing this one?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know.
I'm trying to figure it out, damn it.
I'm busy. I don't know.
Even the user reviews are good, which means millions of people liked this game. 90%. The first one.
Brad
the
demands
first
an
one
answer.
is good, but
I demand an answer. I do.
Yeah.
There's no way. I get that a lot of people don't know about it, but I bet a lot of those millions do know about it, and they don't give a shit. And I want to know when the Steam user rating is above a 90%.
Let's be real too. Let's be real. Nolan said it, and he has a point. This game also came out in the midst of just a ridiculous time for game releases, and I know that's no excuse.
No, but
like
you don't
when you
look what year it came out.
when you combine this, when you combine this with like the
7 years
the lack
ago.
of marketing or the quiet marketing, whatever you want to call it, and all of the Xbox drama happening lately, and just a 2-month window where it's just game after game after game after game after game, it's not
Look,
at the top of people's priority list.
the first one's good, but I played it 7 years ago, and I don't know, it wasn't good enough to necessitate playing a sequel, right? I did.
It came out in 2017, which
I did really like it.
in terms of years of video games, there was plenty of stuff to play.
Maybe I'm a different person now. I don't know. It is
Also,
good.
I'm not saying 2017. I'm saying like literally when you get down to like the month, and maybe there's other stuff coming out that month. But
I got fucking Lorelei and the Laser Eye to worry about. I got Destiny Final Shape dropping in a week that I got to worry about. I got fucking a new Final Fantasy 14 expansion in a month that I got to worry about. It's just like, what am I made of time and money?
So here's the other thing. Here's the other thing, Brad. And I honestly, I'm not trying to be kind of negative or say your point's not valid or anything like that by any means. But to Nick's point and Crispy's point, and just every day, there are more games than there have ever been. Every day, more games are coming out. Indie games, AAA games, games that people play longer. Games as a service that people spend their time on. The market is so saturated that you can't play everything. Yeah, there are people who their job is to play games. So yes, they play a lot of games. And there are people who are maybe in like late high school, early college or whatever that have a lot of free time that play a lot of games. But everyone else, it's like, look, you got to pick and choose, man. You can't play everything. It's not like there's 3 games out this month or this year I want to play. There's like 40 or 50 of them. Can't get to all of them. And you got to make choices.
And this one's a hard sell as like being a priority, right? And it is kind of, it's an artsy game. This is like an art house game. It really is. What's the Green Knight? I kept thinking about the Green Knight while playing this game. I was like, this game feels like an A24.
First good thing you said.
Dude, I watched The Green Knight a couple weeks ago again, and that movie is sick.
It is.
I love that.
And look, I'm not trying to set anybody's expectations. It's like if you have really high expectations for The Green Knight, or if you really love The Green Knight, I'm not saying this is like on par with that movie, but I'm just saying like in terms of its approach and its like artistic styling and how it prioritizes storytelling and like the way it tells its story, it's just you gotta know what you're getting yourself into. It's like it's Ninja Theory makes a certain kind of game now. It's like the way A24, when you see their name on something, it's what kind of movie it's gonna be. You know what I mean? Or not necessarily what kind of movie it's gonna be, but it's maybe not the same thing you're getting everywhere else. And also maybe it's just a bad fit for Xbox. I don't fucking know. I don't have an answer. But Hellblade 2, if you have the opportunity, check it out. Yeah, I spent this entire time talking about this game and never once mentioned the audio stuff, which is still pretty cool.
So here's another thing, a fun fact for you. I just looked up all the games that came out around the original Hellblade's release date. There wasn't fucking much. The month before there was.
I'm looking at it too.
Kirby's
Agents
Blowout
of
Blast.
Mayhem came out. Nolan. Agents of Mayhem.
Name me 2 big
Uncharted.
games that came out. Uncharted what?
Lost Legacy.
Where?
On PlayStation. This was a PlayStation game.
When?
That's a big game.
When?
August 22nd.
So a few weeks after it came out.
Oh wait, what is the release date for this game? I thought it was.
It was August 8th. Yeah.
I played a
I'm
couple
looking at it
hours
right
of
now.
Agents of Mayhem.
Oh look, we're getting into the nitty gritty, but I mean,
But that's what I'm saying, Brad. That's a valid point. That when the original came out, first off, it was a new IP. It looked beautiful. It was a very groundbreaking graphics-wise game. It looks great. It had the concept of like the spatial audio, which was a new thing that not a whole lot of people were doing. There was a lot going for it, and nothing else was out at the time. But now all of a sudden, let's look at all the games that are currently out.
That too, and I'll believe you. That's fine. But like, I also look at we've been talking about a lot of indie games, but like as far as like Sony, PlayStation, Microsoft, this is like it for quote unquote AAA games this month from what I've seen. It's not like everyone's drowning in big releases. I'm saying if Microsoft can't push this as maybe the lone big release in in May, then there's bigger issues
Okay,
here.
look. we need to move on.
This too long.
I did not mean for Hellblade 2 to take up this much of the second segment, so I don't even know what to do.
Well, I mean, Chris Davis is talking about Dead Rising 2, right?
I mean,
yes,
yeah.
Off the record.
Yeah.
What? I mean, he's talking about it off the record. That's what I'm saying.
Ha ha ha. Well, no. We're gonna.
Sorry, that was a really bad transition. I'm officially transitioning to Dead Rising off the record.
Well, that transition was like, I don't think he's got too much to say, but let's go.
2 out of 10.
So I tried to record some footage for the podcast because I didn't realize Nick made an overlay for it, and for some reason, this is a Capcom game that had a bad port. Capcom had several years of just bad PC ports, and this is unfortunately one of them. So yeah, it took me a while to get it working. Like, look, it's a 2016 release, and it only works on an Xbox 360 controller. What? So I downloaded
a Japanese PC game in 2016, which was like, I feel like still some semi new ground for. I mean, you didn't see a lot of the bigger console ports to PC from Japanese developers back then. You didn't see it often.
Sure, but this was only 8 years ago, and that was 2 years after the previous generation had ended. So, like, what?
Yeah, but what are you going to play Dead Rising with mouse and keyboard? I mean, come on. Probably a low effort port.
It was clearly a low effort port because it only. Okay, let me set the record straight here. With the controller specifically, the only controller of any controller that it will support is the 360 controller. Oh. It will not support a PlayStation controller or anything else.
What about an Xbox One controller?
No, not even Xbox One controller.
What the shit?
Yeah, I downloaded.
Should take over at some point.
I used PC Gaming Wiki to download a program to try and get another controller to work. It took me hours to get it to barely work. I ended up just going through looking through boxes to find my old wired fucking 360 controller that I bought nearly 20 years ago.
A wired controller. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
You really wanted to play Dead Rising 2 that bad?
The Dead Rising 2 port where you play as Frank instead of Charlie. What's that fucking dude?
Chuck.
From Dead Rising? Chuck.
Chuck.
Yeah, Chuck Green. Yeah,
it's Frank.
We need more protagonists. We need more protagonists who go by the name Chuck. I'm just saying.
Do we?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt, I guess. So the whole idea with Off the Record is that you're basically replaying Dead Rising 2 as Frank West instead of Chuck Green, who was. And
they bring back the photography stuff.
They bring back the photography. They expand the map by giving you a brand new zone to explore, the Uranus zone. Yes, they go through all the jokes possible with that. In fact, there's even a little mini game about mole men from Uranus.
It's times like this where I'm just like, sometimes being a gamer is hard. You know what I mean? It's just
it could be yeah.
It
could be hard for Uranus. Yeah,
Oh, stop it! You're just perpetuating this bullshit, Chris.
I am starting to believe that the reason he wants to talk about it on the podcast is because of the Uranus zone.
No, that is 1% of the reason why I want to talk about it. I started this game back in 2016. Something stopped me from playing it. I don't know what it was. I got like over a third of the way through it. I don't know what. So I restarted the game because it's a Dead Rising game that I did not complete. I was genuinely curious to see what was going on with it, and I like it. It's basically retelling the basic plot structure of Dead Rising 2 from if Frank had been the protagonist. So they switch around a lot of things. Like one of the psychopaths that you eventually fight is Chuck. Because he went
cool.
Thanks for the spoilers from this.
Oh, fuck off!
30-year-old game. No,
yeah.
I gotta say, I'm a little sad. I thought I was going to go into this saying, well, at least we get to see some Dead Rising footage, which is a delightful series.
I really tried to record footage and it just fucked up. It only recorded the audio. So I don't know. I can get you some later.
Any other new psychopaths?
There actually is. There is a psychopath that's a cousin to the clown from Dead Rising 1. And he's also a clown. He has his own thing. It's fun.
I thought the clown was one of the psychopaths in Dead Rising 2, but I guess he was in Dead Rising 1, huh?
Yeah, he was in Dead Rising 1.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's I don't know. It's kind of cool how they like take the plot line and make it work for Frank. Like they change who the villain is. They change out how events happen. They change out how you find survivors. They change out the AI. There's a lot of things that they alternate to make it feel like a standalone expansion more than just a new game.
I'm glad they did it in such a way that it doesn't just feel like a palette swap, because that would be weak.
And again, between the new zone, between like the new Psycho and these alternate like events that happen, it does feel kind of fresh. I did enjoy it. I did get the full ending. The big thing that makes it stand out that Brad might be attracted to is the fact that there is now a sandbox mode, where you are not obligated by the time limit. You have no like story events that are sequential as the game goes on.
It's basically just explore and kill zombies.
Basically, that's what my footage was trying to record. You just drop into the map, you start killing zombies. Randomly spawned survivors will hunt you down and attack you. I don't know what much else is to the sandbox mode, because that's not really the draw for me. I like the stress of the time limit, of the sequential events, of figuring out, exploring the environment, things like that. It's fun. Cool. I like it.
Cool. And you finished it. Oh, you said you got the true endings. Yeah. So
what's next? Dante's
It's like now this is a weekly segment on the podcast now. What does Chris Davis going to play next? Because
Dante's Inferno or perhaps Singularity.
Oh no, I've already done those. I actually started up Divinity Original Sin 2.
He mentioned that last week, which was
a real video
stretch. But hey,
I'm only a couple hours in. I've gotten to the outskirts of Fort Joy. I'm playing as Loesch, rather than creating a character.
Yeah, she's crazy, cray.
Yeah, I know. I like the idea of her. She's got that dark passenger thing.
Is that how you say it? Why do I not recall that being the way you pronounce her
what
name?
Loesch?
Loesch?
I don't know. Look at me. I haven't played the game, so I have no idea.
Her name is spelled Lohse, and I've only heard her name said out loud once, and I don't remember what.
Lohse, so Los.
Maybe Loss. I don't know.
I don't remember anyone calling her Loesch, but like
somebody find
Loesch,
out.
My skin
somebody
is
find out.
I don't know.
That's okay.
I've only played like 2 hours. Like, I'm not thrilled by the fact that there aren't actual like stat rolls that are happening when you go do actions.
Well, now you've played Baldur's Gate 3 and you're taking.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 spoiled me.
They're very different games, but you know what?
Yeah, they are.
You don't have to rest to get all your spell uses back. You could just use whatever you want. That's nice.
Hooray!
Okay.
Well,
I spec her out as a rogue because I like backstabbing things. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to stick with Divinity Original Sin 2. It's not grabbing me like Baldur's Gate 3 did. I want to give it a fair try.
Give it a fair shake.
Yeah.
Are you going to move on to Eat Lead, The Return of Matt Hazard?
I never played that. I heard it was not good.
Oh, now Brad is just now plunging to the depths of like the most random shit he can think of and seeing if anything sticks.
I don't know. I'm just trying to play things that have been in my backlog for a long ass time. Desperately trying to save money right now. So.
I love going back to play old games, so there's no fault there. It's just
okay. I've looked up the pronunciation. I've got 3 different answers.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Well, useful.
Lowe's, Losa, and Loesch.
I like Losa.
I mean, that's a voice acted game. I'm just trying to remember the pronunciation. I'm pretty sure
Losa?
I don't remember Loesch.
It might be Losa. I don't remember.
It's not Loesch. It's
you can play as her.
Loge.
Loge.
Okay.
Interesting.
Like,
Okay.
there's the
What do
guy
you
named
say?
You know the
Kyle.
360 marketplace, I believe, is going offline soon.
Yeah,
soon?
end of
That
July.
hasn't gone off. That hasn't
So
gone
some of those
offline yet.
games, like there's some cool games on there that, you know, if you still got like a Xbox, maybe purchase.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff that only ever made it onto XBLA Arcade or only got digital releases on the 360.
Yeah.
Like, you only got a short time left to grab those.
All right.
Legally, anyway.
Let's. In just a second, I'm going to turn it over to Brad so we can
Real
get us a
quick, wait, Nick, I've been playing Insomniac's Fuse. Do we have time for I could talk
You
about
have
Fuse?
not been playing Fuse, you son of a bitch. You know, I will mention this here because I have no intention of actually talking about it tonight, and I don't want to use it do it in my 4-player minute. But I did go out and purchase Rise of the Ronin, and I have started Rise of the Ronin. I'm about 5 or 6 hours in, but I'm going to talk about that at a later date.
Yeah. Turn your brain off.
How many
Just
points?
enjoy the lack of friction. Going from Hellblade to Rise
you
of
don't
the Ronin
understand.
is definitely.
I have had a lot of friction. First area. No, just listen.
Fine.
That first area that you like when you're literally in a tutorial and it's like a snowy area and it's like linear still before you get into the open world. I died about 18 times and I was starting to get really mad.
But you remember the number one tip I gave you, and you're gonna take that to heart. And next time you play the game, you're gonna remember the thing I told you multiple
What?
times.
To turn off my brain about the equipment?
No.
And shit.
Well,
what are you talking about?
Well, you definitely don't need to worry about that.
I already made all your settings changes that you recommended. I went through the whole fucking tweet and did every single one of them.
Was block into parry. You should be guarding.
Okay, I will work on that.
You can hold down guard and then tap parry when you're confident, or when it's a red attack, right?
All right, I will try. That's probably
if I can give you anything, it doesn't matter. You could be naked. You should be blocking until you're confident that you can parry, and then parry when you got the rhythm down.
Okay, noted. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Let's get into it. Brad, can you give us a quick update on Fantasy Critic?
How about my 4-player minute will just be my Fantasy Critic recap because I made a couple of pickups.
Sure. You're going to talk about... Okay, well, yeah, go ahead. Whatever, that's fine. Yeah. Just take it away.
My 4-player minute will be about the 2 games I picked up in Fantasy Critic. I picked up UFO 50, which is crazy because that game was announced in 2017. There's only one trailer for that game, I think, from 2017. We watched it before the podcast. It's UFO 50. It's 50 fake retro games made by Derek Yu, famous for Spelunky, and some other indie devs like the dev that made Downwell. Good people. I think there's even like a board game designer who's making games on there, and it's just a variety of 50 fake retro games, and they've got like full RPGs, Metroidvanias in there, I believe, but they also got, some more like arcadey style games. I believe like half of them also have like multiplayer modes as well. And
that's wild.
It's an incredibly cool project from people who know what they're doing, and like 50 games from people who know what they're doing is a crazy package. So if you were paying attention, I know some people saw some mention of that earlier this year. They said, I think we're going to make second half of 2024. There was something more recently saying that they're actually, hey, keep an eye out, Summer Game Fest. We're going to have something to say. There's also even more suggesting, and this is like maybe way underground, saying that, or maybe, yeah, like I'm pretty sure it is coming this year. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It is a little scary because this is the kind of game where they literally probably didn't say anything for half a decade about it. But I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like this is a dub. Like, I feel like they're 6 of the 50. If they're awesome, this game is going to score well, right? It's 50 games. That's fucking crazy. And honestly, Fantasy Critic aside, it's just a game I'm incredibly excited about. The retro game challenge games on the DS were like super cool games. We only got one of them. The second one wasn't localized, but I got the localization on my Miu Plus. So that was a pickup that I really wanted, and I'm glad I got it. Another one I just kind of threw out there was the Alters. I just threw out $1. I was like, someone else is probably gonna watch some previews or something because there was a preview embargo this week, and probably snag it. It was a game that I was happy to have. Otherwise I wouldn't have bid on it, but I was just kind of throwing off the scent on people digging up, UFO 50 news, honestly. But no one bit. So I got it. I was surprised. Same with like Heist 2, right? I wanted Lorelei and the laser eyes, and I thought people would see Heist 2, but no one bid on it. I'm like, okay, I'll happily take Heist 2. So yeah, my list is almost full. And The Altars, we also watched a trailer for it. It looks really cool. Check out the archive for trailer talk. But that's the next game from the people who make Frostpunk and This War of Mine, specifically the This War of Mine developer. And I just think that's a talented studio. They make cool shit. I think Frostpunk and This War of Mine are a really cool game, and this one does definitely seems more ambitious, but it also seems really cool. It's kind of like yeah. It's like the movie Moon plus Death Stranding, and I don't know.
That
Cool
alone should be
vibes, cool
enough
look.
to.
The trailers are cool. I don't know. It just seems cool. They even have like some XCOM style like base building in there. So I'm stoked. And
Sweet.
it has a 2024 date. So
Was there anything else outside of your pickups that happened since
well,
last
we're not going
week,
to talk about
or-
the $30 thing unless Crispy wants to. But other than that, I don't know. I mean, some games came out, right? Maybe.
I mean, Hellblade came out, but
Hellblade came out. I
Right.
guess that underperformed a little bit.
it's got 81
I
right
thought it
now.
would be better than that, but
I kind
that
of was
whole
hoping it'd be
project I was
like
confused by.
I was kind of hoping it would at least hit like 84 or 85, but 81.
I gotta be
I'll
honest with
take it.
you. I'm glad that it didn't do crazy because your list is looking pretty scary, to be honest, with a lot of potential, especially after you got Lorelei. And I think Black Myth is kind of a dicey counter pick, but
That's
you
I'm
can drop that.
that's I have
Behemoth.
until July 1st to make a decision on my super
You will
drop.
be doomed by that counter pick.
I think Skydance's Behemoth is like it's a very big deal VR game, but they've also not said shit about it.
Dude,
think
I
it's
don't
gonna
even know if
come out
that
this
I
year.
don't see that game coming out this year. That's the only reason
So
I counterpicked
you're
it.
in really good shape generally, I think, of course. Assuming that Ubisoft doesn't fuck up with games as a service stuff. I mean, those are your two big games that you have on your list that are coming out later this year.
I have faith in both those projects.
I mean, obviously, Rebirth is doing a lot of heavy lifting, but other than that, as long as you don't screw up the rest of your picks, you're in really good shape. So
I'm playing it slow and steady.
fucking Balatro, god damn it, Nolan. Yeah,
all
Nolan,
he has to do is Brad has to do is read the name Balatro and he gets mad.
Why I am mad.
Nolan.
Yeah, so I would say for Fantasy Critic in general, the ones I'm most afraid of right now are Nick and Nolan.
Why? You keep sweeping up all the good games, Brad.
Okay. Are you talking shit now? You just
What? I
wait.
got one good game, and you're all like, "Oh, you got one good game. I'm so
Okay,
mad."
but it's a 91, which is like an impossible score for your average. I mean, it's yeah, okay. The second highest rated game of the year or whatever. So look, it's a good one. Also, you have an 87 and an 88, and the rest of your games are cool looking. So
Except
I
for
mean,
the
they're cool
Plucky
looking, but they could always
I'm
get
not
milk
crying yet.
shake ducked.
Yeah,
The
except
only
for
reason I'm
that
not
Plucky
crying yet
Square.
Yeah, that's gonna be a 60. No, the only reason I'm not as scared of yours is because you still have 6 open spots, so it's harder to
Exactly.
like.
I have a lot of slots open right now, which could go either way.
It's
Last
looking
year
pretty
the end
strong,
of the
too.
year fucked me. Everything that was left was scoring in like the low 70s. So it's just one of those things.
I mean, obviously,
where...
yeah, shit gets weird. But
Shit gets
That's all.
weird. All right. Let's pass it over to Nolan.
Yo. All right. My 4-player minute soapbox grandstand starts now. I can't remember if I talked about it last week, but I went back to NOL a little bit. I tried to find a few more things. I tried to do a few more things, but like it was going nowhere. I wasn't finding anything. There were some puzzles that I think I kind of knew what to do, but wasn't sure. And so at that point, I have 2 Chivos that are locked. I can't see what they are left in the game. I'm pretty sure I know what one of them is, and the other one I'm pretty sure is that one that's impossible to do by yourself. So I think I've kind of
Exhausted
taken,
it.
Yeah, animal.
at some
as
point,
far
are
as
y'all
they're
gonna
go.
go down the well of seeing what all the crazy stuff is that people are spending dozens of hours doing?
I might wait a little bit and see and make sure it's all kind of done before I dig into it. That way I can dig into it once everyone else has already, done their Beautiful Mind, Charlie Day, It's Always Sunny, like crazy shit. So then I can just kind of read up on it. That's my plan.
That's a good strategy. I'll just
Yeah.
follow Nolan's lead. Whenever he says he's done, I'm like, all right, time to boot up the internet and see. Let them tell me what I didn't see, and I hope it melts my brain when I do.
Sure. I meant to, after last week, pick up Paper Trail, but I didn't get around to it. It was a very busy week for me here. There's always something going on, and so I didn't get a chance to pick it up. But that's definitely the next one I want to play. I'm looking forward to that. I watched a couple more trailers and a couple other things since last week. Definitely, that's kind of the game that's currently piquing my interest. There was one thing I wanted to potentially talk about, but because I think someone else might talk about it in their 4-player minute, I'm not going to. But yeah,
I am curious now.
If they don't, I will.
All right, Krispy, why don't you go next?
Okay, fine. I'll talk about it. I don't know if this is what Nolan's referring to, but I know what Brad's referring to because I spent $30 on Haunty.
Yep.
In fantasy.
I'm shocked by that, Crispy.
I heard it's like a 4 out of 10. So
because I mean, both Brad and I bid on it.
Yeah, I thought there was no heat on that. I thought I'm just gonna scoop this up $1 filler.
Yeah. I thought it looked good. I was looking forward to it.
I will say I was in a weird place mentally. I was in a weird place mentally when I bid on it, so maybe I wasn't. Maybe it wasn't in the best mindset to be throwing fake money around. But, yeah, I don't know. I just thought, I was.
It's a very
when it was an 80, I was like, okay, that's fine. I paid a little much for it, but whatever. I need a dub. Like, I don't have anything that's doing really well besides Tekken.
Mm-hmm.
And
we still got a lot of games, right? That haven't.
I still have a lot of games that haven't come out, and I still have a lot of empty spaces on my roster.
Yeah, don't worry about it. You got time. It's not even halfway through the year yet.
I'm a little bummed about the way Haunty turned out.
Hey, maybe you could entice somebody with a trade to get some of those funds back.
I'll take.
Maybe, but I will say that new Warhammer trailer that came out last week. I mean,
you know why I want that one to suck.
That's that could be cool. Could be pretty cool. I sure hate to have counterpicked that game.
I could have counterpicked Ayuden, but that was a heart not counterpick.
That probably would have been a smarter counterpick than Space Marine at this point.
I know, but I'm saying I avoided that counterpick because of my heart.
He could not bring himself to do that.
76 now.
Look, all it needs
that
to
game
happen...
was buggy and with performance issues. Still is.
Look, I'm
60 hours into that game and I'm loving it. So
listen, I'm not doing great this year so far. I've been on the back leg the entire year from minute one, from the second we chose the draft order. I've been on the back foot.
You know what's gonna be?
I think Peach is the real crime here. Princess Peach is the real crime.
Princess Peach got fucked. True. Like, you guys fucked me.
Can I just say for the record that I'm not laughing at you, Krispy, but if listen, if in January we roll the dice to kind of figure out who's gonna the draft order, and you end up 6th again for the 3rd year in a row, I will laugh, but not at you, just at the whole misfortune of the whole situation. Because it happened 2 years in a row. We're going 2 for 2 now.
Thanks for contributing, Nick. Look. All that needs to happen is Nintendo gets their shit together and puts out Metroid Prime 4 this year, and then I'll definitely lose, but I'll be happy about it. I'll be like, okay, cool. That's
I
my.
mean, how can you be angry when we're all playing Metroid Prime 4?
Dude,
right?
what?
That's
Like, I counterpicked Star Wars Outlaws, and I'm excited about that game. I think it's gonna be good. I think that is gonna fuck me. Like,
we say every year, or we say every month when we talk about Fantasy Critic this year that like we all had to make tough choices when it came to counterpicks. Like, I think we all have one that makes us go fuck.
Listen, shut up. Okay.
Well, not Carlos.
You counterpick Skydance's Behemoth and Black Myth Wukong. Okay, I mean, like, shut up.
I mean, I think Wukong could fuck me unless I drop it.
Wukong could, but it's like volatile. Like, I feel like Star Wars, if it's a halfway decent game, will get good scores. You
don't bet against Star Wars, bro.
That, really, everything was getting delayed for such a long time. I thought your frame of mind for that counterpick was probably innate coming out this year, and I would have been with you, honestly.
I mean, that's my only hope, really. But I don't know. I just my strategy at this point, it's fucking disgusting.
It's gonna go up. The more
I don't even want to talk about it.
The further it
I don't even
saturates that.
Think about it
How many
anymore.
reviews does it have so far?
Haunty's in the past.
Not a lot.
Haunty's
4 out of 10 dropped the score so much.
Haunty's behind me now. It's in the past. I don't fucking care.
It's gonna go up.
You, Nintendo Life. The critic recommend 81% critics recommended, but top average critic is 73. I fucking Anyway, I have 5 empty slots.
There's 9 reviews that count on Haunty, which is why the 4 out of 10 killed it.
That's awful. I have 5 empty slots, which I'm going to be playing the back half of the year very differently than the front half.
I mean, look,
in December, Warhammer, I think,
290 pluses came out.
Warhammer's a 95. I'm saying it here. Warhammer's gonna save me.
95.
Right.
Warhammer.
Wait, you said that about
Warhammer for the glory of the Emperor. What?
Remember Rogue Trader last year? You said 95 to the moon.
It should have been. It was so close. It could have been. It should have been.
Never bet on Warhammer.
I think that if any Warhammer game has the ability to overcome and succeed where all others have failed, it's Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. I can feel it in my bones. And that's it. That's all I have to say.
Saber. Chris Davis, real quick on that. Do you have details on the team, the development team at Saber that is making, and you can tell me after the show, the team that's making Space Marine 2, what specific games did they work on? Because that's a large company and they do a lot of publishing, and it's hard to tell who the fuck works on who, on what, are they the people that made that fucking Jesus Christ, Evil Dead game, like they make a lot of bullshit, so I'm curious. Anyways, Nick.
It's Chris Davis's turn. You just gave Chris Davis an assignment. It's his turn to do his 4-player minute.
Research after, but I just didn't want to forget about it.
Okay. I don't know which particular team at Saber is doing it. I just know it's an internal team. I can look it up later for you.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, they've got like 7 or 8 different development studios. So, my 4-player minute. It's me trying to be the cheapest motherfucker on the planet right now. I'm still working on my house. And then the other day, my check engine light on my car popped up. And
there it is.
Yeah. Your shit. We all got a lot of shit going on in our life. You always unload on which is fine. It's your platform for anything, but get it.
What else is there to say? I've started Divinity Original Sin 2. I'm not attached to it at the moment yet. I'm hoping a few more hours of play will really grab me.
You're just making us sad.
Yeah, it's a sad thing.
Your car. Why do you take your such an old car to the dealership though? I guess that's the thing I don't understand.
Because it's
not under warranty.
Because they'll do a free diagnostic.
They do a free diagnostic.
Okay, this is getting a little too real for me. Okay.
I'm just saying.
Can we talk about what's important here?
What's important?
You do the free diagnostic and you get the fuck out of there. That's what you do.
What do you think I did?
Oh, okay. Oh,
I'm still.
No. Okay. No, I got you. No, I thought you repaired at the dealership. Never mind.
No.
Okay.
He's just looking out. He's just looking out.
You left out those details. You just said the dealership fucked you, and I was like, well.
Okay. Well, they wanted to fuck me with the price they wanted. And I'm still getting fucked. I'm just not getting fucked that bad.
I just want to say you did buy Alone in the Dark after you knew you were buying a house. I mean,
yeah, because I wanted to try the brand new Alone in the Dark. I didn't want my only Alone in the Dark experience to be the sole thing I remember being I'm the fucking light bringer from that shitty.
That's very
shitty
good and
2009
memorable.
game.
I love how a lot of times Chris Davis's 4-player minute turns. Chris Davis's 4-player minute often turns into Brad just like poking
the fucking
at him
Spanish Inquisition from Brad every fucking week. I don't know. There's nothing I can say that ever makes Brad happy.
You have expressive eyebrows, okay? I like watching you react. What do you want from me, Chris Davis?
I want you to get off my ass for just 1 week.
I don't know. It was sad. I was just trying to make a joke or something. I'm sorry. I hope your car is okay and your house and all that.
God, I hope so, man. I don't get it back till tomorrow.
Go get a second job.
Yeah, because that's exactly what I have time for.
Be one of those people that works 2 work from home jobs. Man, more people pulled that off than you'd realize.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, that is.
It is. Yeah, I don't know how people do it.
Just, like get 2 different jobs, but like barter for like a hybrid schedule.
At the same
that's
time.
like
hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. So I guess my hype for the week is for the Space Marine 2 trailer, Krispy.
When is that dropping?
August something, I think.
February of next year. Just smells like February of next year.
Actually, I think it's September.
August or September, something like that.
What are we
Either way,
February.
The Space Marine 2.
When is it?
September.
The release date? September.
Yeah, September. Okay. That trailer is the first one that actually made me excited for the game. The previous ones, I was like, okay, I don't know if Saber can pull this off. They're not really hitting all the right notes. And then they show Captain Titus, and they talk about like this co-op campaign that sounds pretty fun. My only sincere worry about the game is that please tell me it's just not just about the Tyranids. Please tell me there's more enemies beyond them.
Oh, you're getting into like the deep nerd lore shit here is what we're talking about.
I'm just saying, Space Marine 1 had the twist of like a second enemy faction to fight halfway through the game. And like so far, all they've been showing of this game is just the one enemy type. And I'm like, man, I don't know.
It's not gonna be just one enemy type. That would be silly. That would be something that's Saber interactive.
There's Chaos Space Marines in the multiplayer.
I need a good Exo Primal. If I can get a win in the counter picks, that would be huge. Big numbers.
Big numbers.
Tell you what, Exo Primal is still going, man. It's going well.
But he's talking specifically about the reviews.
Like review scores. Yeah, I get that. I'm just saying, just throw Fantasy Critic out of the conversation for a minute and just let's appreciate that game came out and it was pretty all right.
All right, is it my turn?
Yes, it is. Yep. I've got nothing else.
All right, I'm going to do the thing that I always know I shouldn't do, but I'm going to do it anyways. Because it's me, right? It's me. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to be insufferable for the next 18 years. Dexter's prequel series was officially revealed this week.
Here we go.
And I don't want to hear your stupid opinions.
Whoa.
Just kidding.
I'm a Christian Slater fan. I mean, come on. I've been in the Christian Slater fan club since Heathers.
That was actually really surprising. I did not see the Christian Slater thing coming at all.
Weird. He doesn't look like what's his face at all.
Well, no, I mean, at this point, I don't think they're really too concerned with that.
Okay. Yeah, but Dexter's dad was tall. Christian Slater's not.
Yeah. I mean,
that's mean.
I mean, they're not going to bring back James Remar because he's not getting any younger. You know what I mean? And
wait, didn't he die?
No. I saw him.
In the show. He died in the show.
Yeah. He did die in the show.
So why?
Yes.
I guess he's pretty old now.
Okay. Yeah. He was when I went to the convention to meet the cast. He was there. But yeah,
no. Looked like James Remar died.
I don't know who you're talking about. Anyways, my point is, I just I'm gonna bring back the talk to Nick about Dexter thread in Discord.
Are the vibes good on this one? Are people
Oh,
excited?
I mean, the people
Christian Slater is not like the most bankable actor, you know. I mean, is he
I mean,
going to
he's
put
been-
butts in seats?
He's been doing good stuff. You know, I think Mr. Robot really put him back on the map after a while. You know, I think.
Yeah.
And he was great. He was
a
great.
while ago.
He was great. And if you want to talk about someone like he was playing an imaginary dad in that show, I mean, he's not going to be an imaginary. You get what I'm saying.
Whoa! Spoilers for the first season of Mr. Robot. What the fuck?
Oh shit! Really?
He's not wrong.
Oh shit! You're right. Fuck! I'm sorry. I'm gonna bleep that out.
No, you're not.
I didn't say that.
Stop it. No one cares. It's a decade old.
Well,
show.
sometimes people care.
I mean, you can
Shit.
still spoil it.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. If anybody's mad about that, I just want you to know I literally forgot that was a spoiler when I said that. So I'll bleep that out. But anyways, yeah, no. I'm just you know, I'm the Dexter guy,
Who's
right?
The guy?
So
Who's
this
the
is pretty
Dexter guy?
exciting.
Has he been in anything?
Patrick Gibson. He's been most
can't
recently.
hear
He
you.
was in Netflix
just keep
and
going.
Shadow and Bone. I don't know, man. I'm pretty fucking excited. I mean, I always get excited for new Dexter. That doesn't happen very often, so I'm pretty hyped. I'll just leave it at that. I mean, they announced this back in February of 2023, so and then the writer's strike pretty much happened right after that. So it's been just radio silence about since then. So it's cool to see it's finally real and it's happening and it's a thing. And apparently they're starting to film like next week or something. So
like what? It's Dexter's like in his early 20s or something like that.
Yep.
Like what?
1991 Miami Dexter. So he's just getting out of college, or he's just at the tail end of his college career, and he's starting his internship kind of thing.
So he hasn't done his first kill yet.
Oh, he
I
definitely did.
I mean, they touch on that in the original show. I would imagine it's going to be kind of unavoidable. They're going to have to kind of retell that story because that's kind of the whole. It's a prequel, and that's the story they're telling. But it was so brief in the original show that it didn't have much context or anything. You were just kind of left to kind of like you get the idea and you kind of fill in the blanks, and then it's all of like 4 minutes in the actual original show. So there's plenty of.
My first time was the same.
Yeah. 4 minutes, yeah.
I hope it's not too. Like, I hope they nail. Michael C. Hall's Dexter is not an easy thing to.
No. Here's the thing.
to-
Not an easy tone to match, and it's big shoes to fill. But like, you got to imagine that like there was probably extensive casting meetings and whatnot, and whoever was going to get the role had to have done something to kind of like earn it. You know what I mean?
No.
So I'm just
all
really
he did
curious.
was walk in the audition and say, "Tonight's the night."
Maybe.
And they were like, "Nailed it."
No, I mean I'm sure there's lots of stuff they had him do, and I'm just really interested to see what they're going for here. So yeah,
They're just gonna.
As a Dexter fan, I'm pretty excited.
They're just gonna edge for 13 episodes until the season finale is his first kill.
10 episodes? No, that would be dumb.
I don't think they're gonna do that.
10 episodes, and the first episode will be that first kill, probably. But, anyways, yeah, I just I will go ahead and put that out there into the world because obviously it's me, and that's how I want to spend my 4-player minute. But that's it. That's our show. That's it. That's all we got this week, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. 4playernetwork.com is of course the website where you can find all of our episodes as well as on all the podcast services out there. Make sure if you're not already, join us in our Discord at discord.gg/4player. Don't forget we're doing Trailer Talks live together on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. right before we record these shows on Twitch and on YouTube. So if you want to catch those, make sure you tune in live. And yeah, just make sure you're in our Discord, guys, because next month's going to be, it's June. I know E3 is dead as fuck, but that doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot of exciting stuff happening, industry stuff happening that we're going to be wanting to talk about and whatnot. So yeah,
love making fun of Jeff Keighley, so I'll be there.
Yeah, it's always.
Oh, yeah, it's not hard.
Always plenty of Jeff Keighley stuff to make fun of, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, thanks for listening again, guys. We'll see you next week for another episode. In the meantime, be good to each other, play video games, and good night.
Bye.
Bye.